still have 1 minute.
Excuse me.
Not on my watch. They're not on the clock, they don't. Good to go. Oh. Oh, wow. We gotta wait 1 minute according to, yeah. Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, I want to make a point of,
Well, sign up for public forum, sir.
I already did. I just want to ask you if you instruct the board, if they got to get up and leave, please pause the speaker. You got up 5 times last time.
I can't make another commissioner stop. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, but, yeah, I understand, but that's,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was suggesting.
You can address it at the podium if you have an issue with it, but I can't regulate another commissioners what they do. So,
I think I understand. They couldn't
Yeah.
hear too good,
okay.
but my hearing aids didn't work.
All right. Where's the thing I have to read? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second budget meeting, September 23rd, 2025. It's 5:01. Please turn your cell phones to the vibrate, silence, or off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairperson. To allow sufficient time for all speakers, speakers shall refrain from any abuse or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Upon completion of the public comments period, discussion is limited to the board members and questions raised by the board. We'll go ahead and start and have a moment of silence, if you wouldn't mind standing with me. Please bow your head for just a minute. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stroberger, will you do the pledge?
Yeah, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Okay, Elena, do we have proof of publication?
Mr. Chairman, the second public hearing for consideration of the final budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 was advertised in the Pensacola News Journal on September 18, 2025, in the board's weekly meeting schedule. The notice of proposed tax increase and the budget summary for fiscal year 2025-2026 were advertised in the Pensacola News Journal on September 19th of 2025, and the 5:02 and 5:03 p.m. public hearings were advertised in the Pensacola News Journal on September 10th of 2025.
Okay, thank you very much. Board, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, we're at board action 501. We have one speaker. It's a public hearing for consideration of the final budget for fiscal year 25-26. Wes, would you like to do your stuff and then we'll have public speakers come up?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is the second of 2 required public hearings for the board to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 budget. At its first public hearing held September 9th, 2025, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the tentative millage rates and budget for fiscal year 25-26. The law requires that prior to consideration of the final budget, an explanation of the rollback rate be provided and entered into the records. The rollback rate is a computed millage rate that would generate the same amount of ad valorem tax dollars as the prior fiscal year, based on the proposed year's tax roll, excluding new construction. The millage rates tentatively approved by the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners on September 9th, 2025, are 6.6165 for the countywide millage rate, 0.3590 for the Library Municipal Services Taxing Unit, and 0.6850 for the Sheriff's Law Enforcement Municipal Services Taxing Unit. The aggregate of these millage rates proposed for fiscal year 25-26 is 4.83% above the rollback rate of 7.1312 certified by the property appraiser. This represents the percentage increase in property taxes tentatively adopted by the board. Staff has recommended one amendment to the fiscal year 25-26 tentative budget. This amendment is for an increase of $44,041,563. It's for recommended adjustments to the tentative budget. The revised budget will result in a balanced unified budget of $868,481,713, which is 8.7% more than the adopted fiscal year 24-25 budget of $798,672,479.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. We do have one speaker for 5-1. Mary Konopka, you're up.
Hi, Mary Konopka, and I'm here to oppose such an increase in our taxes, the millage rate. There's just, I don't see a reason for it. We've had a lot of growth in the county, and that new growth should subsidize new infrastructure. But it probably won't, because we have such substandard wastewater stuff going on and holding ponds. So I wish that y'all would talk about it, tighten up a little bit, get everyone involved, like the developers, so that we don't have to, the taxpayer doesn't have to be the one to suffer over this. That's all I have to say. We
Thank
need
you,
a
ma'am.
rollback on the millage.
Thank you, Mary. Mr. Marino, we're at 5-2 on the community partner discussion, if you would like to proceed with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we are requesting that the board make a final determination tonight regarding the funding amount to be allocated to each of our community partners. This funding determination is necessary to prepare the fiscal year 25-26 community partner funding agreements and to issue the associated purchase orders in a timely fashion. These purchase orders will come before the board for formal approval in October of 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. There are 5 speakers on 5-2 on the community partner discussion. Our first speaker will be Pastor Joseph Marshall. If you're out there, please come up to the microphone. You're able to speak, and Andrea Ralstad's on deck.
Hello, greetings, Mr. Chairman, as well as all of the other district representatives. It is a privilege and a pleasure to be here today, to have this opportunity to speak concerning the community partnership, specifically speaking concerning the Jazz Fest. Mr. Banks happens to be one of my members, as I've served as senior pastor of St. John Divine Baptist Church, as well as the vice president for the Florida General Baptist Convention for the state of Florida. And I want to cite some numbers that I'm certain that all of you have in front of you, or that was emailed, if you will. And that is concerning the Jazz Fest, as far as the economic impact. There were 3,986 individuals that attended the Jazz Fest this past weekend, starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There was also 68% of visitors who came from outside of Escambia County. There was also 3,530 rooms that were occupied during this time as well. As far as an economic impact, there was nearly $2.1 million economically, as well as more than $1.3 million that was spent here in Escambia County. Last but not least, $27,228 was spent in tax revenue. What I've just cited certainly is the science of the Jazz Fest. I want to speak by way of practicality, because after preaching on Sunday, I had the opportunity, my wife and I, to go down to the Jazz Fest. And again, that's the science. But I want to speak of something that does not show up in this research that was conducted by way of that which was quantitative. I want to talk about that which was qualitative, because I had the opportunity to run in one of my frat brothers from New York City who was at the Jazz Fest. I also had an opportunity to run into one of my friends who was here from Detroit, Michigan, who was at the Jazz Fest. Ran into individuals from California who was here at the Jazz Fest. I saw black folk, I saw white folk, I saw Hispanic, Latino, you just name it. There was all kinds of folk. And everyone was having a darn good time. There were so many smiles, there was so much line dancing, there was people with fans popping them and all of that sort of thing. Me being a pastor, if I had a fan, I think I would have popped it as well. However, because I knew members were watching, I decided to remain pastoral and keep my composure. However, my wife got out there, but regardless, I just wanted to stand and express my support for the Jazz Fest and what Cadillac Banks has been doing. And I also want to thank the city for your support by way of the past years. This city has been quite gracious to Brother Banks, and I appreciate that, and pray that you will consider voting in favor of him continuing the Jazz Fest.
Thank you,
through. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor Marshall.
Thank you, Pastor. I missed church, but I didn't miss the Jazz Festival, so.
And get to church, Lumen, you need it.
They only serve wine in church. I drink beer.
All right. Our next speaker is Andrea Ralsted. Thank you, Andrea. And Tamika Harper's on deck. It's your time, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, good evening, fellow commissioners. I appreciate the short opportunity to speak. The reason I'm here is I was very dismayed at the TDC meeting last month. Commissioner Hoffberger, I know you sat at that meeting, and you and I have had discussions on other topics when you first took office at the end of the year. I'm very passionate about this. I want us to try and find a way that we can get support to keep this Jazz Fest going, not only in 2026, but in out years well beyond that. Cadillac and I, and as you may have seen, I've sent the commissioners an email about 3-4 hours ago. I have raised my hand and stepped forward and had 2 conversations in the last week with Cadillac, and I am committed to help him and his team look at new ways that we can partner together, not only with the city, county, the various chambers, so we can get the support through volunteerism and other means. So I'm asking, now that we've heard what the economic impact has been over the weekend, that we try and get some assistance so we don't have to shut this down next year. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Tamika Harper, are you out there? Okay, Tamika, come on up, and then Mr. Banks, William Banks, you're on deck.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm in support of y'all voting for us to continue the Jazz Festival, because I'm now a resident of Escambia County. I was in Santa Rosa County some years ago. When I first moved to Santa Rosa County, to Escambia County, there was nothing going on. We had to go all the way to Panama City to enjoy jazz. And I would rather spend my dollars in Escambia County than going all the way to Panama City to give my money. So I vote in favor of for further funding for the Jazz Festival here to stay right here in Pensacola, Escambia County.
Thank you for your comments. William Banks, Mr. Banks, I thought I saw you out there. Come on up. And then Andrea Roberts, you're on deck.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is William Banks. Most of y'all know me by Cadillac. I missed church too, trying to produce this thing. I'm sorry, Pastor.
We're going to have another moment of silence for you, Lumen.
Well, first of all, I want to thank this board. And as I look back, let me look at my time. As I look back, this board has always supported the Jazz Festival. I remember when we first started, it was nothing. It was like pulling teeth to try to get people to come here. Now we have people coming in from all over the country, from overseas. It's a great event. That little thing with TDC, I mean, I don't really want to relitigate that. What I'm here for now is asking for the 250 so we can do the 10th year anniversary. This past weekend we had a flyover, surprisingly flyover by the Blue Angels. I had nothing to do with that, okay? People have been calling me. That was not me. I didn't know where they came from, but they did a little maneuver over the park. It's a great event. And I would, every time I come up here, I try to invite this board to come see. I mean, I know it's some kind of things that y'all can't do, but you can come and observe. You know, it's not like I'm giving you tickets or anything. You can come in and observe and see what the dollars are really being spent on. And that's where I'm at with this. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So obviously, you've been working hard to get us all a lot of emails, and I've got a lot. Thank you. You said that's what you should do. I called the chairman of the TDC, and I just want to bounce this off you since I know we're going to get a conversation here in a little bit, but do you need 250 or do you need something a little less? Because I was told you need a little bit less to make it go.
Well,
What's the
I mean,
actual number, Cadillac?
What happened, how that 250 came about was for this year because we created an extra day. That's where that come from. So if it's a little less, you know, we can probably live with 200 if it's possible, Commissioner, Chairman.
I just had a question because
Yes,
I
sir.
called the
Yes.
chairman of the TTC. I was kind of just wondering how it didn't get through. So, and so we had a conversation. I just wanted to hear your
Yes, sir.
position
Yes,
on
sir.
it.
I could live with that. You know, I can.
Okay, Commissioner May, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Cadillac, if you just stay there for a second. So, Mr. Chairman, is there a number in your head? And Cadillac, let's talk about the ROI. What's the impact on heads and beds on the numbers? So if there's a reduction in 200, what does that look like? If there's a reduction?
I don't know.
Or if it's level funding, what does that look like? And if it's a little less, how does that look?
Well, I think based on the dollar amount, you have to start from the beginning looking. It's all about the talent. So if you want the best of the best talent, because we're not the only one that have a jazz festival, you know, they done popped up all over the country now. So my job is to try to get the best of the best when I could get them. Sometime in areas seem like that number just go up. They want to add 10,000 here. All of them little numbers just go up. So what we just had this past week, you know, we was lucky to get that. I'm already talking with the booking agencies now about how many jazz festivals going to be on top of us. That's very important that we get on top of the game for other jazz festivals get on top of us and take up all the artists. I'm trying to get the artists to Pensacola. So that's basically the 200. I mean, maybe I would have to drop off one or two headliners, you know, I mean, to make it work. But we'll make it work. We'll get these people back to Pensacola. And that's the whole purpose of this thing, is to make them come here.
Okay. And the reason I said that, Mr. Chairman, is, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm going to support the Jazz Festival, Cadillac, as I always have, trying to figure out the happy medium of where we are, recognizing that we do have a Tourist Development Council that for whatever reason, and I have a colleague who sits on that board and would love to hear from her, rejected it. So, Cadillac, when we talk about heads and beds and where this money's come from, I heard some stats from the pastor, but can you just briefly give the stats of the results of what happened in terms of the survey that we hold
survey,
everyone else, and hold on, Cadillac, 1 second. And then do a comparative analysis to the other events that we fund and how does your event compare to heads and beds, sales tax, doing their events?
According to the survey, and you know, and I didn't do the survey, but just reading the survey and based on the numbers that came from the survey, I think it was 35 or 600 room night, 35 or 3,600 room nights for this festival this year. Thank you, Stephen. I can always count on you. And according to this, if we go back and look at these numbers, yeah, that is correct. It said it actually attracted 3,986 unique visitors to Escambia County, and that 68% were visitors from outside of Escambia County. But as to the bed nights, it goes on from what I'm seeing is that it attracted, let me get my paper right, where is it? It was 3,530 room nights were generated by this festival.
Stephen, how does that compare to other events that we fund in terms of return on investment?
Commissioner, I would say that it certainly is comparable. It's been a successful event since the county has contributed to Jazz Fest over the years. Every event is going to have different room nights, different economic impacts, but typically what you would hear, let's say the chairman of the TDC, is we're trying to grow different types of events to have more things going in the off-season, if you will, so that we keep our heads in beds, we keep generating T dollars, ultimately that come back to the county and get reinvested. So in my opinion, I think he's got decent metrics for the type of event that he has. Certainly, Mardi Gras is going to have something a little bit different. It just depends. Each of our events that we fund is certainly unique in its own way. I know the TDC and Commissioner Hoffberger have been looking at what is a good metric, what is something that we can measure against each one, what makes sense. I think that we are actively working on that, staff and with the TDC to make what is going to be a good comparison to apply to each of our partners that receive TDT funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hopperger, do you have your light on?
I do. So I did go through and I pretty much divided up the number of rooms by their ask. So how much are we spending per night to get someone in a hotel room? So based on the numbers that Mr. Banks just gave, that would be about $70 a night that we're paying to get someone here. The Pensacola Yacht Club program that we sponsored, we're paying about $48 a night to get someone here. And for the Pensacon event, we're paying $58 a night to get someone here. So that is still significantly higher. Based on the numbers that he turned in for the application process, he was expecting 2,700 room nights with a goal of 2,800 ticket sales, so I think that might be a little bit off, but with those numbers, it would have been $92 a night.
Is that why you believe the TDC rejected it? I wasn't there.
So that was part of it. We are looking for how much are we paying to get people here per night? So essentially, what is the ask divided by the number of room nights? And then there were also some questions with your application. And when we went through and asked those questions, you got really defensive and we were unable to get some of those answers.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner
Commissioner Hoffberger, so what's the range? What's the lowest ROI? I heard you say 90 and then 58, and Cadillac hits at about 70. So what's the range of the ROI in terms of the TDC dollars that you guys analyze?
So the 90 was initially on what he submitted for the application. What we actually funded, the Pensacola Yacht Club event, we're at $48. And then the Pensacon event, we were at $58. That's just my matrix. That is how I kind of do a quick glance over things. I don't know how the other board does it, like Stephen mentioned.
Absolutely.
We're working on a way to be more consistent.
But there are more events, correct, than just those three? So I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, what's the mode, the medium
Great question.
that we
So
have.
we did nix the funding on quite a few events. So we have the Pensacon event that we're still doing, 4th of July events.
And what's the cost per unit on that, on those events? 4th of July, Pensacon, what are those?
I don't have those. I can go through and get them. I can tell you most of the rooms downtown and on the beach are booked out for both of those holidays.
Right.
Can I ask Cadillac a quick question?
Holidays.
And the only thing I would say, I'd love to see that, just because, in all fairness to Mr. Banks, and so, we want to meet a resolution. In terms of, rather, if I'm funding the Blue Angels and it costs me $3,500 to live on the beach versus am I funding in the middle of the end of September when it only costs me $112?
So oddly enough, we don't fund Blue Angels.
Well, that's not what I'm.
It would be a good spend, though.
Good spend. Well, what I'm saying, I'm not saying we're funding it. I'm saying that room rates differ depending on the time of year.
Right.
Right. And so there has to be a multiplier, not only room rates. I mean, things that benefit this community are sales tax. I can just tell you, I don't have the numbers. Well, I would love to have them, but I can just tell you that I frequently visit all of downtown, and I've talked to restaurant owners, and they're from Jackson's Restaurant to Five Sisters to all of downtown. This weekend, all of them had great numbers. And so, I mean, if we're going to do a comparative analysis, we have to be, in all fairness to what the TDC board does, we need to see what his real economic impact is. And I'm not going to sit there and compare it to 2 events. We have to compare it to every event. And if there's not an ROI, thumbs up. But if it is, I mean, there's a cultural event. I mean, cultural tourism is I mean, bad word, culture, but it is important.
I just took the 2 smaller events.
So, but if we could find other events, I would feel better to have that analysis than to X someone out without knowing exactly, laying out all of the matrix of every number of every event, because he has to be compared to every single event that we fund.
So the other events are much larger events. I just took the smaller, more niche events because I felt like that would have been a bit better comparison. And with the TDC board, the point that you just brought about the whole economic impact, that was actually brought up to the board. But what refills the pot of money for TDC are the room nights. So whereas economic impact is really important, and it is part of what we consider, the biggest part that we consider is how are we going to refill that money to make sure that we can fund events in the future.
And board, we're still in public forum. I don't mind if we keep doing this.
No, I don't want to debate. I mean, I only did that because
but I do have a
asked the
couple
question, and
questions
Mr.
for him
Banks was up
too,
there,
but-
and she made that statement, so.
I have 2 questions,
Yes, sir.
and I actually think events make our community better. So, you know, I think they make us see things in a different lens that oftentimes helps us as a community. I found 2 things I want to just know, because I don't know Cadillac. Are you a non-alcoholic event?
People bring whatever they want, or just can't bring any glass containers. I do not sell alcohol.
Okay, I'm not saying you should, but I know a lot of things
I don't like
subsidized
selling it
through-
because
okay.
then you become liable if somebody
That's fine.
leave
I
there
just-
and have a wreck. That's on the
So
promoter.
that's true, I just didn't know that. And then
No,
the
sir.
second thing, on ticket prices, do you have a migration of your ticket prices? Have they collectively went up over the years, or they've stayed stagnant?
Well, they kind of go up each year. They might go up $10 to $5
Okay.
each year. In this market, you cannot, because the problem we have is Ticketmaster with those fees. So you got to think about the fees when you start pricing your event. If you price it too high, I don't care what artists you got here, they're not coming. So you have to take that into consideration. Now, you could ease it up $5 or $10 every year, but you can't hit them across the head with $25, $30, or $40, $50 on a ticket,
Right.
what they paid maybe $100 for the following year. And that's how you have to do it.
I just was
Yes,
curious.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Commissioner
Chairman.
Mann, then we'll keep trucking on here.
Yeah, well, hold on, Mr. Chairman. I mean, because this is obviously the amount of attention that's been brought to this event, it's critical to our community. Just one more question, Cadillac, and I was in the TDC meeting. And I believe whether you are for-profit or not-for-profit, when you receive public dollars, I mean, those public dollars, have to be acknowledged. Have you shared your 990s, and have you shared your 990s with the TDC
What-
and to,
Okay,
or
let me
your tax
explain- let
return?
me-
Your
let me-
990, your tax return, or your balance sheet, has that
Well-
been shared?
Well, it was a question about whether I can turn it, whether I would have to do a financial statement, which would cause you to get an accountant, which would cause you to spend $5,000 or $10,000, or can I turn in my tax? I talked with the county budget officer, say, turn in your tax returns.
And you've turned in your
Turned in
tax
3
returns?
years of tax returns, but for some unknown reason, at the first TDC meeting, Patel was saying, well, I only got 1 page. At the second meeting, they were saying, well, we only got 3 pages.
But,
Now
and
they
Cadillac,
turned
that's
in
fine.
15
Cadillac, that's
pages
fine.
of
Cadillac, I don't want to go back into what you do to TDC,
Okay.
but have you turned them in? It's just.
Yeah, I turned them in.
That's all we need to know. They're turned in, correct, Stefan?
Yes, sir, what Cadillac is correct.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Cadillac, I don't know, you may want to sit up here after we get done with public forum. There may be more questions, but just, I appreciate you taking the time to answer the
Yes,
board's
sir. Well,
questions
thank
right
all
now.
y'all on this board for reconsidering it.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're still in public forum. Thank you, Cadillac. Andrea Roberts is up next. Is Andrea out there? And then Jerry McIntosh is on deck.
Good evening, Andrea Roberts. I'm the managing attorney with Legal Services of North Florida. We historically have received your support in the past for our services, and I'm just here in terms of if anyone has any questions for our organization.
Commissioner May, is your light on? Or do you, okay, I guess there's no questions. Thank you for coming in and asking for support, ma'am.
Thank you.
Jerry McIntosh. Jerry?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I think this is one of the greatest events on this in this area that I've went to, and I've gone to many jazz festivals around the country, from Chicago to New Orleans to the Sea Breeze to New York. And for the price, and as a taxpayer here, I would rather spend my money where I live. And I think this is the greatest event, one of the greatest events that's been put on in this area, in Escambia County. So I'm here to ask you to support and continue to support Mr. Banks on what he's doing, because we are supporting him as well by participating in these events. And just want to thank you and just say, continue to support this event.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Brian Wire, I see you were an add-on. Oh, hey, Brian, come on up.
Hello, Commissioners. I just wanted to speak personally about the Jazz Festival this weekend. I attended all 3 days. I was there from 11 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night at the events. I sat next to people from the event that have came from New York, Texas, Louisiana. The people that I talked to who were visiting in town, they love Pensacola so much they actually bought a house here so they can come and visit back and forth. And the economic impact to people in our local community is very great from that event. From the vendors that are selling food and selling items, they make money for the event. From the people that attend the area locally and be able to bring in their food and drinks for Cadillac's events. And if you went to the event, you'll see it was completely packed. I mean, the whole area was packed. It was 88 degrees, feels like 99 degrees. People were there the whole entire time for 6 hours looking at it. From speaking from a Chamber of Commerce type perspective, the economic impact locally for the small businesses, for the people in the community that went out to have food, stayed at Airbnbs, it's really hard to calculate a lot of those numbers because I didn't see a lot of surveying going on to survey the people that were there. But the experiences from talking with them one-on-one, from talking to the artists, these are international artists that are coming in out of town to be here and perform, and they spoke about how they love Pensacola. This is one of their favorite venues, looking out at the bay and seeing the crowds attending the event. It was really phenomenal. I hadn't really been for 3 full days before in the past. It's my first time coming for 3 days, and it was just exciting. We had 12 people there ourselves personally there that came from Texas, they came from Louisiana, and they also came from the Mississippi to come to the event with us as a family. And the fellowship that we spent was invaluable, but the economic impact was truly remarkable. People bought wagons, they bought tents, they bought all the supplies in the area to help support the community. And those things are very hard to calculate, but if you ever go to the event and see it in person, you'll be astonished on how well it's done, how professional it is, how there was no fighting or arguing. People just had peaceful times and they stayed there the entire day and really enjoyed it. So I would definitely support, or from any perspective that you can help support the event. It brings a lot to our community, and removing it from our community would definitely be a bad thing for the support of our local community here involved in the area. So I just wanted to say thanks again, Cadillac, for putting on an amazing event, had a wonderful time, and looking forward to hopefully being there next year as well.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate your comments. All right, I just wanted to make sure administratively we were on track here. So we don't have to vote on 5.1, 5.2 right now, so we'll go into public forum. And board, we have 6 speakers. Our first speaker is Martha Bunting. Is Martha out there? And Tim Myers is on deck.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm
Ma'am, will
Martha
you pull?
Bunting.
Yeah, thank you. We can't hear you.
Martha Bunting, I'm a native Pensacolian. I support what you're trying to do, and I want our firefighters to have the equipment and buildings they need, and our citizens to have access to a nearby fire station. I believe you've not really considered the consequences of this budget proposal. How is it efficiency in government if your budget proposal endangers the most vulnerable citizens to potentially lose the title to their homes, have their credit affected, and maybe have nowhere to go? These are not just numbers on a page. This proposal has real-world implication. If our credit is affected, how can we find other affordable housing? There's insufficient affordable housing here. Consider that seniors have way more expenses than younger people. We need more frequent eyeglass prescriptions, more medications, expensive hearing aids, mobility equipment, and Medicare and supplements are very expensive. Also, my teacher friend clued me into the fact that there are many grandparents raising grandchildren. But once our title and credit are affected, what is your remedy for us? What if the housing authority is overrun with requests for help? What if there's no available public housing? Now, I'm not an Escambia County Commissioner, but I have a solution. I would ask that you prioritize the fire projects, schedule only one project per fiscal year, which would bring down the non-ad valorem tax figure. But let me be clear. If even one citizen loses their housing, the title to their housing, due to your unwillingness to implement another solution, then one is too many. And this is not servant leadership. So this does not jive with your oath of office to support and protect Escambia County citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Tim Myers, is Tim out there? And then Jacob Rockwell's on deck. Hi, Tim, thank you.
You guys. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess the last time I didn't speak good. All right. Good, everyone. Regarding the firefighter tax increase, this is a $10.7 million increase proposal that didn't pass the sniff test coming right out of the envelope. It's simply a Trojan unicorn shell game with our taxes, mathematically and financially impossible to quantify, Mr. Hall. Specifically, the entire board is about to commit the largest tax fraud scheme we've seen in our county. Fact, Escambia County general budget was $375 million last year and received an increase in tax revenue into the general fund from all new developments just last year alone of $50 million. You can budget from that. The money's always been there, paid for us by our yearly property taxes and new developments. It's incumbent on you to steward it wisely. If one penny of our stated tax raise goes to anything other than the firefighters' pay, it's defrauding the citizens. It may incur criminal charges. At the last budget meeting, I recommend you all take this back to your desk and rethink it. At the last budget meeting, unbelievable. I'm glad I left when I did. There's an epic, disgraceful disrespect of the entire board, ignoring all 30 speakers, and that offends all of us. You had your mind made up before we even came here. All right, they have had a raise in the last 11 years, and I'll get into that here in a minute. Whoops, I skipped a page. Okay, the proposed firefighting budget requested is going from $31 million this year to $34 million next year. That's only a $3 million increase, not $10.7 million. This is fiduciary irresponsibility, Mr. Hall. You need to fact check me because I did your job and fact checked you. Mr. Stromberg, I told you at your last meeting not to lie to me. You blew that. I'll continue to investigate this matter to conclusion. The facts are, Ms. Hoffberger, you claim the tax raise is only for the firefighter raise in pay. In fact, as of last week, I had to sign up, $15.49 an hour. But that equates to $43,000 salary a year. That's a $10 million in your general budget you're putting into the firefighter funds. Guess what? If we double it, they go to $86,000 a year salaried, working 2 days a week, 5 days off. In the last year alone, one fire structure per station per month. That was all that was worked if you average it out. Not hard to figure out. It's a tax, yeah, I just said that. Destin makes $51,000 a year starting, Milton $38,000. That's simple demographics. In Destin, they have a lot higher pay.
Mr. Myers, final, wrap up your thoughts, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now, I'd like to caution the board here, 25 seconds. Paradise Beach never had a fire station by any insurance definition, verified fact. They had an unmanned fire truck garage, So this board is putting everyone there, claiming an ISO insurance rating reduction for fire services, can have their home insurance revoked for insurance
Mr. Myers,
fraud.
you're going to have to wrap up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I gave you enough time. Jacob Rockwell,
Right.
I gave you more than your time. I can't give everyone that. We got to be fair.
It can
Jacob, you're up
retroactively
next.
clawed back, and the USA doesn't even use ISO rating.
Tim, thank you
And
for your
so-
comments. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
So at the end of the day, you guys put that out there, that it was a fire station.
Jacob,
when it
you're
wasn't.
up. Tim, you have to leave the
That's
mic.
okay.
I know you don't want to, but you're going to have
Trying to
to.
get this together here. So,
Diana
I can
Ressler is up next after Jacob.
that's my 101.
Jacob.
I can donate it to the fire station.
Thank you,
You don't
thank you,
raise taxes.
Mr. Myers. Jacob, you're up.
Thank y'all. Y'all probably aren't going to like what I have to say. I'm here to talk about 4-1, the 4-1 majority that Republicans have on this council. As a Republican voter, I got to tell you, it doesn't feel like we have a 4-1 Republican conservative majority. Feels like we have a swamp creature majority. We should be able to advance a conservative agenda in this county uninhibited, but we aren't. So why not? Why does the budget keep growing exponentially more than the rate of inflation? Why do local property taxes keep going up? Why are we hosting a drag queen Christmas? Why can't we get a Charlie Kirk Boulevard? I'll tell you why. The Republican majority on the BCC is being afraid to call an ist, a racist, a fascist, a Nazi. The left marched in here last week, called y'all racist, slandered Charlie Kirk as racist, and the four of y'all folded like China-made lawn chairs. Not one of them offered an actual quote, and I'd bet my bottom dollar that not a single one of them have ever listened to a second of Charlie Kirk outside the CNN sphere. As a matter of fact, Dr. Alveda King put out videos in support of Charlie Kirk, saying anyone who disparaged the man is not displaying good Christian values, and that he was in fact a great man. So seeing the four of you capitulate to the left in the face of the lies and slander while you continuously give your constituents like me the proverbial middle finger on every issue is very telling. We are watching the way you vote, but there is hope. I'm here to tell you that no matter what you do, the left will always call you an ist. Dehumanizing you is their only go-to. It's their entire brand. It's really difficult to have middle ground with people who just call you a racist or a bigot or a Nazi or a threat to democracy anytime they don't get their way. The same people that will call you an ist are the same people that will look at you with a straight face and tell you that Jimmy Kimmel getting a 3-day suspension from his private employer was a bigger attack on free speech than Charlie Kirk being assassinated, all while they danced on his grave. The cognitive dissonance is really remarkable. I mean, it's almost to the point we don't live in the same reality. And you're worried about community division? That ship has sailed. So if you with a 4-1 majority bow down every time someone comes in here and screams ist at you, you will not inspire much confidence in your voters. But if you stand for what you ran on, conservative values, we will stand behind you and support you. We just don't want, we want Republicans with fangs. We want representatives who will show their teeth. And if you are too afraid of the name calling to push the conservative platform in this county, do us all a favor and resign so the voters can elect somebody who will. Because as it stands, Ms. Hoffberger is the only one of you that has shown any real grit, even though those votes are going 5-0. So we're going to be watching y'all's response over this drag queen Christmas debacle because y'all fumbled the ball on Charlie Kirk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Diane Ressler and Mark Hill's on deck.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that I don't want y'all to double that fire insurance. I'm struggling now to pay the $125 now. And I don't know what I'll do if you double it, because if I don't pay it, you're going to take my home. I've been there 50 years, and now I worry about it being taken from me. And I don't think y'all got that right, because y'all don't pay my mortgage, you don't pay my homeowner's insurance, and you don't pay my repairs on my house. So y'all have no right to take my home because I can't afford to pay fire insurance. I worry all the time about paying it. So I'm hoping y'all do not double it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ressler, for your comments. Mark Hill, if you're out there. Okay, Mark, come on up, and then Mike Sittiger, I'm assuming I'm saying that right. Mike Sittiger, if I'm saying it wrong, you're up next. Go ahead,
Thank
Mark.
you, Commissioners. My name is Mark Hill. I live in District 1. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a retired firefighter paramedic with roughly 30-plus years on the job. I am pro-fire rescue. Some of my time was actually spent here in Escambia County. I did roughly 13 years with the county in the EMS. And I will say that I am for firefighters getting paid and being paid correctly. But I'm not supportive of the taxing of the way you're doing it. I think there's a better way. I think there's another way you can do it. And I don't think you've figured that out yet. And I think you're shooting from the hip, maybe trying to just save the grace. Okay? So I know pretty much you're all going to vote for it because you've been pushed to do that. And I've got a few questions that I want answers to. Everybody here probably wants them too, but they probably haven't thought about them. What are we getting for what we're paying you? What are you going to give us? The status quo? Or are we going to raise the bar? Are we going to increase the quality of service that we're paying for? Are you going to put full ALS engine companies at every fire station and put an ambulance in every fire station to reduce our response times, or EMS and fire's response times, and get better coverage for the people that are paying those taxes? That's what we want. If you're going to raise it, you better raise the bar. Because if you're not giving us our bottom dollar of what we want. Okay? I mean, that's my expectation of all of you. Okay? What about requirements? I know there's across the board, there's a standard fire certification you got to have. I've got it. Okay? But are you going to require upper echelon, lieutenants, captains, battalion chiefs? Are they going to be required to have bachelor's degrees to get pay raises? Are they required now to have that? Same thing with the fire chief. Most cities this size, they require their fire chief to have a minimum of a master's degree and a minimum of an EFO or a CFO through the National Fire Academy. Does ours have that? I don't know. I know some of the guys on the department. I've worked with them. I've even worked with the chief. I've taught with him before as a fire instructor. The other thing is incentive pays. I know that the state the department that I worked at before I retired, each merit badge that you got, whether you were a hazmat or whether you were a lieutenant or fire officer 1, fire officer 2, you got a certain amount of money that was allotted to that department through the state, and then the county or the district or city
Mark,
or
you're
whatever
going to have to wrap up your thoughts.
would match that. Is that being done? Okay? And the last thing that I've got for you is the statement that Cadillac made earlier. I think it was profound. That when he said, you can't just hit them with it all at once. Don't hit us with it all at once.
Okay,
You should have never
Mark.
done that. Thank
Mark,
you.
I appreciate your comments. Mike Steger, or Sittiger, I don't know. Am I saying it wrong, sir? Please tell. Okay, well, you help me out. Educate me on how to say your last name.
Oh, I'm here to talk about the tax increase. I'm opposed to it. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I watch my homeowner's insurance go up, and then I look at the taxes at the end of the year to pay, and I think it's crazy. I think it's absolutely crazy. I got a few questions. There was a sidewalk that was poured from Wynette up Longleaf all the way down, all the way through to Kemp, and goes all the way up Kemp to where Kemp stops. There's nothing there. The kids don't even walk on that sidewalk. It's there. What was it? Just something to do to pour money into an area where there's no housing in there. A few houses up along Kemp and a church, and that's it. And I got another one. The sheriff's department. I've called the sheriff's department numerous times. I walk my dog. My wife and I walk our dog every morning. We go up Chicago to Christopher, from Christopher to Ferris. And we got people that fly down through there, and there's kids along that road that are waiting for the bus. And they fly down that road. It seems like I'm on the snowball derby a lot of times. I almost got hit twice on that road with my dog. And I've called the sheriff's department numerous times. Sometimes I'd get a recording, and sometimes I would talk to somebody. Yeah, we'll put you on a list. I saw one squad car come through, one. And that was at 9 o'clock in the morning when I told them specific times when these people come through. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I want something done about that since they got a good budget, I guess, this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Arnitha, welcome. You're up next.
You're going to like what I got to say.
Hey, Mr. McKay wants you on his radio show. I don't know why, but you need to reach out to him, all right?
All right, now see you using my time. Now,
No, I haven't started the clock. Don't do that to me. Go ahead.
Just a friendly reminder of the homeless veteran stand down that's going to take place Friday at 9 o'clock at the Brownsville Community Center. Just a friendly reminder. Also, and I just want to piggyback off, since I do have plenty of time left, on Cadillac Bank's Jazz Festival. That festival benefits so many people. You even have, and I have to support my veterans. You have handicapped veterans that take part in this jazz festival. They enjoy the jazz festival. It's so convenient for them, and we'd rather bring our money here to Pensacola instead of having to drive out of the area. So I would appreciate if you all truly take that in consideration, because it is a safe event, and it's right at home. So please take that in consideration, and I do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Thank you.
I'll see you Friday. I already made my commitment to your friends out there, so look forward to seeing you. Oh, you got it. You got it in a few seconds, so you better get your
Okay.
last
I
word.
just wanted to let you know that we do have the chairperson here, Mr. Joe Herron,
Yep.
and our FSO, Vernon Watson. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnitha. All right, board. That's it for public forum. Before we go into board actions, do we want to have some discussion, or because after I read it, we it's up to you if you want to make any changes.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I see is left out, if there's other board discussion, is this will include, Stephan, our TDC dollars too when we move this, correct?
So Commissioner, I am looking for direction on our TDT community partners, as well as our general fund, LOST, and our one allocation and our solid waste fund.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Well, hold on, repeat that again, if you don't mind, Stefan.
I think we got everything except for outside agencies, correct?
Yes, sir. I just need some direction on what we're going to fund next year's community partners.
Yeah, it's combined. I think we're going to move everything except for outside agencies, correct, Wes? On this motion. And if we're going to do that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to support Cadillac Banks. Although TDC did not recommend it, I'm going to move that we fund him at the tune of $200,000 to his budget.
Okay,
And I'll
so we'll
second
have to
that.
separately vote on each one of these, I believe, right, Allison?
No, we can take them all at one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to vote on them separately. is that
No,
right?
we don't have to vote on them. We can take it all at one.
The
I'm-
amendment
You're going to add all four, okay, gotcha.
I'm adding
All right.
I'm adding a friendly amendment to give Mr. Banks $200,000 for the Jazz Festival as just a friendly
Yeah.
amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
motion.
if there wasn't a second, I second that. It's, I mean, you know, I'm much more comfortable funding it now than I was 8 or 10 years ago. You know, when we first started working with it, you know, I don't think there was a lot of history, and you know, I don't sit on the TDC, so not privy to the, you know, not privy to some of that internal data that the board had to make their determination. But regardless, the room stays are substantial. That's a good number. And when you go to compute the per night, you know, the per night buy, if you take 20% off of it, that's going to be a reduction. There's going to be a reduction in the per night buy. Just from that, it's going to get it much closer in line to a couple of the other events that Commissioner Hoffberger mentioned. And, you know, years ago, it was just kind of a trust factor, you know, with Mr. Banks. He said, well, if I do it, I think people will come. And now we do have some, you know, some verified heads in beds that are coming, that are quantifiable data. He's provided the tax returns that are required and those things. So I second it. I don't have an issue funding it and, you know, having that be an amendment to the outside agency funding as in the budget.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. I think we're fortunate we'd had, you know, Commissioner Stroberger second and then Commissioner Berry. So my motion stands as is, and accept that second.
Okay, so we have a motion and second to fund the Jazz Fest for $200,000. Is any other, you have?
I had a question.
Okay, I'm
So-
sorry,
No, no,
Commissioner
no,
Hopperg, I didn't see it.
So what all are we moving forward? Just the Jazz Fest?
No, we're moving all four items. We're moving everything except for outside agencies.
Okay, so on the community partners,
We're moving the community partners forward. We're moving 501. We're moving everything forward.
okay, so I do have a,
Yeah, we still, Allison, I think we need to vote on this one because we still have two speakers on the millage rate, which I can't do without
No,
voting.
we haven't gotten to the millage
I know,
rate
that's what I'm
yet.
saying.
Yeah, this is for the budget office to know what official agreements are going to be coming back to you at your October board meetings for your outside partners.
So make the motion to include, I think you did, but I think we focused on the Jazz Fest, but you mean all the community?
I didn't focus on Jazz Fest. I just offered a friendly amendment to move
And
all four
we haven't
items.
voted on that, but I think we're at a place where we should vote unless you have a separate question.
I do, so.
I mean, if we want to move, I mean, if we want to withdraw that item and vote on that separately, I mean, I guess someone can make a motion, but I offered a friendly amendment to pass all four items. And so that's the motion. It's been seconded. It's on the floor, so we should vote it up
Yeah,
or we
no,
should vote it down.
I
So
just
we're
want
not
to let her
discussing-
comment. and
Okay,
we'll
we come, yeah, I mean, the motion's already there. We got to either vote it up or we got to
Right,
vote it
but she
down.
has the right to talk before we
Right,
vote.
right, yeah, I don't have a
So,
problem with that, but I
Commissioner
mean, we can't,
Hopperger?
Yeah,
there's
so
a
are we
motion.
not going to discuss any of the other community partners? Or is now the time to do that, is what I'm
Well,
asking?
I mean, unless there's changes that are required or necessary. I mean,
Okay, so-
I think the majority of them, the board had, you know, kind of accepted through our workshops and through the first budget hearing, but.
Okay, one of the things that I had mentioned to Allison and Wes is the Keep Pensacola Beautiful. You guys do great work. I think we should keep you on. But I would like to see that go as a actual item in the budget as an expense from a vendor, because we do also have a contract with them. So it is a little confusing that we have a contract with Keep Pensacola Beautiful, which they do amazing work. They're awesome for us. But then we're also giving them money as a nonprofit. So I've been told that it's because they do above and beyond, which is fine. I would just rather see that as part of the contract to be more transparent with the community instead of a tip added on as a community partner.
Good point, because we raised their budget last year. Why is that, Stefan, that we have two different line items? Because all I want is Charles to get the west side cleaned up. So yeah, whatever you got to
Right.
do it.
And the beaches,
But,
we appreciate
yeah.
that. Thank you.
But why do we have it on two different ones?
So they actually participate through a procurement process with our Parks Department and our Neighborhood and Human Services Department. So if they win, you know, or win the bids or win that procurement, then they perform that service for us. So this particular allocation, which we do draft a contract for, outlining what services they will provide to us, these are outside of our regular county departments. These are things that they do for us countywide, which is this community partner piece. So there is a difference. This is just an allocation of our board. It's not limited to a CRA or a TIF area. It's basically wherever this is needed. If they're performing a service for parks, it's going to be in our parks, in our local parks. Or it's going to be around our community centers if it's Neighborhood and Human Services. So that's kind of the difference.
Well, kind of difference. I still don't understand why we can't just have it as one item. I mean, you kind of tap dance there a little bit, Stefan.
So
Commissioner, I think what we're saying is stuff outside the contract with parks, outside the contract with neighborhood services, we have other areas of the county where we provide routes for trash pickup and litter debris pickup, and that's what this allocation would cover.
So why isn't that just part of the contract? Because we just voted on that contract last meeting or the meeting before. And again, you guys do amazing work. We want to keep you on, but I think it would be more transparent to the
I think it
community.
would be a separate contract from Parks and separate contract from NESD. I mean, there's nothing saying we couldn't go out for
So you're saying you
procurement.
need two separate
So
contracts?
Commissioner Hoffberger, this is something that's come up previously, the board has raised, it may not have been when when Administrator Moreno was in the seat, but it's an issue that the board had raised a couple of times over the years about they receive, they receive money as a nonprofit, and then they also compete for work, and it's been at multiple budget hearings or workshops where we've discussed it. The board has left the arrangement as is. So it's a very decent question. It's one I've asked myself a couple of times, but there hasn't been an appetite to make a change to that. But
Is it all coming out of general fund?
no, so the solid waste fund is, I don't know the percentage, but it's funding a pretty healthy percentage of it.
Commissioner, may you have another comment, or you just?
No, I just wanted clarification. So some of it comes out of waste management. Does any of it come out of human services, or does it come out of general fund, the remainder?
And can it not all come out of waste management, right? Is that what
Excuse me?
was that your next question? Can it not all come out of waste management?
No, I mean, I'm just trying to get a point of clarification from where it is coming.
I think
For
we're taking,
justification of why they are, making it two separate contracts.
based on some previous budget discussions, I think we're taking everything for waste management from 401 that we can, I believe.
So the majority of it comes from waste management.
Yes, sir.
So none comes from any of our CRA dollars.
I would defer to Clara on that. While I know a great deal about the budget, she would be best suited to answer the question.
So I don't know if it's coming out. At some point, we have had, and unfortunately, we made a motion, Charles, so I don't think you can talk. But at some point, we've had some money that has come out of CRA for CRA cleanups. It's gone to Pensacola Beautiful.
And some comes out of Parks and Recs, right, Mike? I know it
The
does.
Parks and Recs contract addresses beach accesses out on Perdita Key in some of those areas. Parks, actually athletic parks around the county. That's what the Parks and Rec contract addresses with Keep Pensacola Beautiful. That's what their contract
So if they're picking
addresses.
up on the beach, actually, is that coming out of Santa Rosa Island Authority, or are we paying for it?
No,
They
this is
can pick up on the beach?
Perdita Key beach accesses.
Oh, they're picking up on Perdido.
Yes,
They're not picking up on Pensacola Beach.
not on Pensacola Beach, no.
I just feel like if they're providing a service for the county and we're paying them to do something in the capacity of a vendor, we should have an actual contract for that. It shouldn't be under the nonprofit donation list.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I don't know that the second budget hearing is the time to hash it out, though. I mean, I think that's really a workshop item in June, July, August item. I don't know that, or even a first budget hearing. I don't know that it's, fair to our then Charles is certainly able to advocate on his own behalf, but whether it's Charles or somebody else, I don't know that, that it's fair to come to this meeting and then, kind of require a change in the operational way and he's only been in that position for, a relatively short period of time, but the organization has been a partner for 20 years, give or take. So.
Well, I had asked Allison and Wes, and they told me to bring it up at this meeting.
Well, I mean, but we were together 2 weeks ago as well, and and are together relatively frequently. So, I mean, there have been opportunities to bring it up.
Stefan, what's the
But
recommendation
the good
from
thing
you?
about this is,
Okay,
excuse me, I just wanted to respond to my colleague, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I mean, so if we're taking out waste management, which is basically an enterprise account, I mean, the millage rate is already set, as my colleague has said. I mean, if we alter these numbers in too many ways, I mean, we're probably going to have hours and hours of discussion that we're going to have to go into, because they've kind of put what we're going to put in reserves and what we've allocated to the other constitutionals, plus what we've allocated to other departments. And to change those numbers, we're going to have to change some other numbers as well.
Well, we were
Am
just
I
doing
valid
this-
in saying what I'm saying, Stefan, if we start moving numbers? Or is that?
Well, yes, sir, Commissioner. These are moving numbers, but certainly for Commissioner Hoffberger, so, and possibly the county attorney could add to this conversation, but we can only do certain things with our Waste Services Fund by ordinance. So this is one of those things that we can expend those type of enterprise funds on for the benefit of the county and cleaning up the county, where they pick up multiple tons of garbage and trash all across the county, not direct department activities, but outside the scope of our direct departments, where this particular funding source can legally be used to do this, to help us keep our county clean.
So if we do it through a contract, like the regular procurement process, can we not use those dollars for that?
Yes, we could.
So would your idea actually be, I mean, because I was going to say, we could take all that waste management money and go tear down Baptist Hospital and don't pick up any paper. I mean, because that's what the mayor was asking for us to take it out of the waste management, so. I mean,
Stop the pain.
Yeah, maybe that's an option. But are you just trying to make it competitive where you want to go out to bid, or, because I think that the sole solicitation is that what Charles does is a unique service where there's probably not anyone else that competes with that service. But if I'm hearing you that you would want it to go through the procurement process, I mean, I'm not saying I'm against that. I'm saying, is that what you're saying versus sole sourcing it out to that organization?
Well, more or less, because right now we're doing it as a community partner, so it's as a donation. So we're donating money and then they're performing a service. So I just feel like that's a very blurry line and probably not something we want to set a precedent of doing. If they are performing a service, I think that it should go through the regular procurement process, because then where do we draw the line of just bringing people in and giving their nonprofit money and expecting them to perform a service for us? You guys do great service. I want to continue the contract. That's not what this part is about. And they did win the contract that we had for the other cleanup areas.
Okay, Stefan, what's your recommendation for the board this year? Because I see both issues on this side. What would,
Sure,
listen
sure.
to Commissioner Hoffberger's concern.
So-
What do you recommend?
So I think I can make this easy for the board. So this particular allocation can still be the allocation. However, if the board would prefer that we do a competitive process, it's still going to be this part of the budget. It doesn't change the budget. This is the amount that we'll have to work with, and we can go through a competitive procurement.
Allison, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, that is one way to get there. There are two pieces to this. As Commissioner Berry has indicated, this is an issue that has come up at least a couple times before. There's one piece where Parks and Rec does a full procurement, and they have been on contract through that method. We separately do contribute through a miscellaneous appropriations agreement, which I believe is funded by the Solid Waste Fund as a community partner. Because they've done great work, we've basically donated, but they do in turn do roadside litter pickup for that. But that has not gone through the full procurement process. That's an option, but in the past, the board has fallen on, just having this dual-headed arrangement with them.
I think it makes more sense to keep it consistent and all under the procurement process versus the community partner. And honestly, I feel like we need to do a better job of weeding out some of the community partners. People have spoke tonight about paying higher taxes and not knowing where those are going for. And I don't want the appearance that we're cherry picking charities, when in reality, we're paying a really good firm to do a really good job, but it doesn't look like that because they're not going through the procurement process. So I just think the optics aren't great.
Okay, so Allison, there's two things on the table. Commissioner May made a motion to add $200,000 for Jazz Fest for the community partners. We had second that. I think we need to finalize that if you want to add something else to this, right? First, if we want to go through to other issues.
No, I moved all four of the items, but now if you want to pull, if someone want to make a motion to pull that back, pull it back. I mean, that's fine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Commissioner Hoffberg, can we move forward, or that's where we're at?
Make a motion, make a second, take a vote. I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
Would you consider an amendment to move that to the procurement process? So your motion and then move the allocation from solid waste to the procurement?
If
Or you
that's,
not-
I mean.
If you're interested in that, if not, I understand.
I mean, if that's the consensus of the board, I kind of feel as, my colleague, it's still money that's coming out of waste management, and I just don't know what a difference it's going to make. I mean, I think looking forward, Commissioner Hallberger, that's something you could do. I just don't know what impact it would make other than making us change a bunch of numbers.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we vote on Commissioner May's allocation for Jazz
Okay,
Fest? and then
that's
let
fine. I
Commissioner
just was
Hoffberger's
trying to
idea-
get to some
Let Commissioner
consensus.
Hoffberger's idea stand on its own and see what happens.
Gotcha. Okay, there's a motion and second on Commissioner May's amendment to fund Jazz Fest at $200,000. Please vote. 4 in favor. Any opposed?
So is that the only thing we just voted on?
1 opposed.
No, I voted for it, Mike.
I know, she voted against it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm saying, is that the only thing we just voted
I'm watching
on?
what's going on.
All right. Well, I was holding my hand up.
And I'm fine. I mean, but point of order, I mean, that's, motion was incorrectly carried. I mean, but it was fine to bring that item and have it
Now,
talked about.
Well, I want to
But
vote,
I mean, but
I
we- I
wanted
mean,
to
we-
single that one out by design because I think she wanted it. Now
Well,
we'll
that's
vote for
fine.
committee partners.
I mean, we do go by Rogers Rule of Order in parliamentary procedure in which a motion was made. You could have easily pulled that out, but that's fine. If
All right,
where we are, that's fine. We'll be here all night discussing that.
Yeah,
but
let's just
that was out of order.
let's try to
All
keep
right,
it. Okay.
so then just
Commissioner
make a
Hoffberger,
motion
she
for the
wants-
rest of the community partners and we can move forward.
Well, if Commissioner Hoffberger wants to
Or
make,
unless she wants to amendment, you're right. Do you want to make an amendment?
I would like to make an amendment to move that to the procurement process and then move everything else forward.
So, Mr. Chairman, so I did not, and with all due respect, I mean, what he's done for me when I was at city council, the reason I did not say that I would hear from Charles because there was a motion on the floor, and so there was deliberation among the commissioners, which would not allow for public input. Now that that motion has passed, there is an opportunity for public input. So I would say that Mr. Bear should be allowed the opportunity to present his case since we've moved the item. And had we moved it forward, he would not have been allowed to talk, but by parliamentary procedure, he is allowed to talk now. So I would say that he should
I
be
mean,
able to speak.
technically, I made a motion, but it's fine, I'll withdraw
It
it.
hadn't been second, though, and so we hadn't deliberated.
So, Charles, do you want to make a comment? I mean, I'll allow that if you want. You don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot.
to. I mean, that's why he's been sitting at the edge of his seat.
Okay, it's not what I expected tonight, so I'll just tell you right now. I just wanted to give you it's a challenge for me too, okay? So we have a 3-year contract with the county to do what we call the litter barrel contract, okay? That means we go to, I think it's 81 parks and boat ramps across the county. We empty the trash cans. So we check every trash can, we empty the can, we get paid by the can. It's like $5.87 a can. We're in the 3rd year of that contract. We did not compete the last time because we're a nonprofit. We didn't have to compete because the state law says that we don't have to compete. So, I mean, it wouldn't be terrible if we went to a contract. However, the way we've been funded with a solid waste fund, there's nobody else that gets money from that. And I feel like what we're doing is something that, as a nonprofit, we would continue to do even without the contract. The contract is something that I have not always wanted to do. I can tell you that right now. And we've been back and forth based on staffing. It's very, very difficult because it's 7 days a week during the summer. So that's completely separate. But I just wanted to give you some idea that, like roadside litter, which is the biggest part of what we do for our allocation, okay? Last year, we did 61,850 pounds, which was more than what we had thought we were going to do. This year, we've done 165,000. We did 12 tons of roadside litter just in August. So we are doing something, and granted, it is a service, and we are providing a service, but I think it's under the idea that we are a nonprofit that's able to provide a service. I think there are other community partners that provide services. I haven't studied the entire list, but I think what you're getting is a nonprofit that's willing to do this. And I understand that there's some idea that maybe we should merge these two things, but I work very hard to keep these things separate. And you don't know how difficult that is to make sure that we're tracking mileage, we're tracking payroll, we're tracking every expense we do, which I can tell you was not always done before I got here. You know, there were trash bags that were bought. We didn't know what they were used for, whether they were used for roadside, the contract, or whether it was used for our allocation. But I can tell you that what we're spending on the allocation, it's not an overflow or anything. They're completely separate items. And I feel like the number of years we've done this as an allocation, that we have shown you that we are good stewards of the money. And I don't know who else would do this. You know, and if you want to stop roadside litter, when we don't have a contract, I mean, you can do that, but I can tell you it's going to pile up, especially in District 2.
Oh, I know.
We have switched to getting bulky waste now. We were doing lots of bagged waste, and because of what was happening mainly in District 2, and even District 4 and 5, 1, and 3 all have this situation. We are taking truckloads to the landfill, and I have exact numbers. These are exact numbers because what we're taking to landfill, and we are doing a service that I think no one else really can do. If you want to test the water and see if someone else is willing to do it, that's one thing, but I don't think what you're getting is, I think what you're getting is what you need. We also do the Adopt a Spot program through this. We do educational efforts as well with our allocation. So we are doing nonprofit-related things, not just the service. It all kind of ties together. So,
Charles, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you do metric weekly reports or monthly reports? I never get any of them. I'm not doubting what you do because I call you and Dorothy calls you and you always are very responsive. But I think that maybe would be helpful. I'm not trying to make more work on you, but you already rattled off all kinds of numbers. I think it'd be good if you sent them over to Wes and he could forward them to us or something.
we do a quarterly report, which is required of all
Okay.
community partners. I would be happy to do a
Yeah,
monthly,
please
so you
send
can
those
see
to me.
what's
I love
happening in your
looking at data.
district, because we track it by district when it comes to roadside. So, part of me, I kind of understand what you're trying to do, Commissioner Hoffberger, but I also think that we have been good stewards of the money. We are a nonprofit. We are working hard to do things in this community that make a difference. And going to a competitive process makes me a little bit nervous because we're already doing that with the other. And you don't really have to go through a competitive process when you're working with a nonprofit anyway. So I'm not exactly sure why we would do that. And we do pretty much have a contract with the county already, community partner, and we don't just get a big chunk of money. It's all reimbursement based anyway. And I can tell you, between your budget staff here and the clerk's office, man, there's not a thing that's missed in there. So I don't think you have anything to worry about.
So
from that
Charles, can I ask you a
perspective.
question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in line, because I see where my colleague is going. If you're the only one that's doing the service and it was a competitive bid, would there be anybody even to compete against you? I mean, would you?
I don't know, and you don't even have to do a competitive bid. Like I said, the last time we got the contract from Parks and Rec for the litter barrel, they didn't even have to put it out to bid because we are a nonprofit and state law allows us to not have to be competitive.
So how many tons do you pick up in like the CRA in low-income areas, Charles?
Well, we participate in like those neighborhood cleanups, and like this year so far, we've collected 37,000 pounds in neighborhood cleanups, which is something the county does in the CRA areas. Tires, we pick up lots of paint cans, chemicals, propane tanks, things of that nature.
You pick up bulk like furniture and those things?
We pick up tons and tons of furniture. We're running on Thursdays, we're doing about 2 tons of furniture every Thursday is what we're picking up.
And how neighborhoods determined?
We make sure that we're doing districts, we do it by district. And then we have a pretty active staff. Because we also have the contract, we see where trash is accumulating. Plus, we have people like Commissioner Kohler who keep an eye out for it. And if his office calls me, we go get it. So,
I'm
and
sure
that's
he's
the
looking out
same
for
thing for all of
District
you.
3, Yeah, I'm sure.
Actually, I am, because
Oh,
we
you-
share
you're out for
Jackson
District
Street.
3 and you
and
jump to go pick up in District 3, yeah. I bet you do.
Believe it or not, Lumen, I care a lot about your area, Brownsville.
So basically upon request.
Yes. Plus, we're proactive about it as well. We know the hot spots. We do an annual litter survey, so we know, which is something that's required by Keep America Beautiful, so we can maintain our status with them. So
Yeah,
I
I've been
just
out
don't
twice
think
with you when we picked up trash at Myrtle Grove and I think Lexington Terrace. I mean, you do great work. I don't have an issue with that. I think we got into an interesting conversation here. But Commissioner Hoffberger?
Yeah, you do great work, 100%. My concern is our process of procuring you to do that work, not the status of your work. I think we all agree that it's spectacular, and we don't want to lose that. Can you educate me on what, if we go through the procurement process, what the unintended consequences of that might be?
Well, it depends on whether we get the status that we do with the other contract. If we're given the status as a nonprofit, and I think the funding source is one thing we've talked about too, because with the contract, we're funded by LOST and non-LOST, so I guess it's just general revenue. This one comes out of a specific fund. We're the only ones that really get any money from this. So I don't think it would be a problem, but I think you already have a contract. I mean, based on the community partner, it's not like you just give the money and just let us go. I mean, every month we have to submit the numbers, we have to do quarterly reports, we have to sign a contract, pretty much. So I don't see as much different. I mean, if you want to put your procurement people through doing that, I don't have a huge problem with that. I think we're in a good rhythm where we know where the trash is and we are actively working. I'd hate to see that get interrupted because that's what we started as a roadside litter organization, and we've had a long-standing partnership with the county in doing that.
Right, and we do appreciate that. Thank you so much for that.
Do you use all volunteers or you use paid staff?
We use paid staff. We can't get volunteers to do that type of thing, especially it's dangerous on the roadside. Insurance is probably one of our biggest things that we pay for.
You also use court-ordered people who need volunteer hours too, is that
We do not
correct?
currently do that because we had a lot of bad experiences with that. We had some threatening people and we had some real problems with them being with our drivers, and it just got to be too hard to screen them to make sure they'd be acceptable.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now, since you said you do all paid people, two things, Charles. I got to figure out when the last time you were on Johnson Avenue in Inslee, because that was a request, so if you'd put that on your list on Johnson Avenue.
Okay.
And what do you pay the people that are picking up the paper?
It's in our budget documents, but it's $18 an hour is what we're paying our services crew.
Wow. It's pretty good.
Well, it's hard to find good people, I'll tell you that right now. And I think
No, I
Parks and
think they
Rec will
deserve
tell you
it.
the same
I mean,
thing.
yeah. You'll hear me talk about custodial staff and support staff should all be paid livable wages where they can afford to take care of their families and pay their rent. I'm a big supporter of that.
Charles, I'll tell you, from my standpoint, I'm working with everyone I can to clean up blight everywhere, and you have helped, and it's been noticed in District 2. Listening to this and listening to my fellow commissioners, I'm more apt to stay where we're at. But with it coming out of the waste management budget, Stefan, tell me what your absolute recommendation is. Do it like we are now, or change it. I'm not against my colleague. I just would like to hear your position.
No, I'm just gathering information, so
Okay.
it's not
Well,
like
that's
I've
okay.
got a picket sign or
I just
anything.
want.
Well, ultimately, that's the board's decision. Certainly, we've used the community partner process for a very long time to provide these services and the cleanup. Again, it is not limited to a particular department or a particular area, and that's the benefit of this. He is a not-for-profit, or this organization is a not-for-profit. Typically, most of our competitive bid process, these are vendors that are there to make money, so.
So how does that work with them being a nonprofit? Do they have a leg up on anybody else or do they not have to go through the procurement process?
So I am not a subject matter expert on procurement.
What was it?
Procurement. If a nonprofit has an advantage over a regular vendor that's a nonprofit.
Lindsay's coming up.
She's coming up. The question is what's the advantage of a nonprofit over another vendor?
A nonprofit is exempt from the procurement process, so they don't even have to compete. Like how Michael has his, he contacted me, we went through all the paperwork, their W-9, and their SunBiz says they're nonprofit, so we were able to get a contract directly from legal.
Okay, so essentially, we could just move this to a contract and not have to go through the procurement process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. I would love to do that.
But what would be the difference in doing that, other than taking it out of waste management, is where we probably have the most
The
discretion?
funding still comes out of waste management.
Okay, so what would be the point of moving it?
Not for Parks and Recs, no, but for the community to pick up what we're talking about, it comes out of solid waste. Parks comes out of their own separate account.
Actually, I'm just trying to see what would be the benefit of moving it to, if it's a non-compete, you can sole source it without having them to go through the procurement process. What would be the difference from moving it? I mean, what would be the purpose?
So in full transparency, I think we need to look at removing the charities that we support, because I think that the general cry from the community is stop spending my taxpayer dollars on things that aren't specifically for the government. I feel like when we put it on this chart as community partners, it's like a donation to a charity, not that we're paying them for a service, when in actuality, we are paying them for a service. So I feel like it provides more transparency to the community. I realize it's the same dollars, but the transparency level to the community, I feel like would be much better if we had an actual contract and it was not just a charity that we were supporting.
And listen, and so actually, if that's where you want to go, I want to support it. I would say it's a slippery slope. So whether it's dollars or whether it's property, so when we started funding CHODOs, when we start giving property to nonprofits in terms of property, when we start giving ship subsidized to not-for-profits and CHODOs, it's going to have to fall under the same guidance. And so if we go there, I mean, that's fine with me, but it needs to be consistent across the board. So when we start talking about outside agencies, I mean, we're talking about a lot of partnerships in terms of how we give out property, how we allocate usage of our facilities. I mean, that's a lot that we're gonna do. That's a slippery slope. And so, I mean, we could set a bad precedent. But if that's where we're going, that's fine. But then further, when we get to all these outside agencies, you know, whether it be Brace, whether it be Chambers, whether it be Florida West, I mean, all these not-for-profits are gonna have to, quite frankly, fall on the same criteria if we do that. So I would just say be careful with that.
I have a
Commissioner
question.
May,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Berry, go ahead.
For whatever it's worth, I would rather leave it like it is tonight. Okay. And, I mean, I'm not opposed to something being changed long-term. I'm not going to put, you know, this specific discussion is not something that's been brought up amongst us as a whole. And I'm not going to ask, you know, there are a lot of people in the audience here for our budget, for our broad budget. I'm not going to ask Stefan and Wes and Allison to sit here and give me the other side of the equation, because I know that there is one and there will be unintended consequences of making a change. I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but I don't know that it's necessary, or I'm not going to support it tonight, I guess is what I'm
And
saying.
Steve, and Commissioner Berry, that's all I was saying. There could be some unintended consequences if we made that decision tonight. That's all. And so I'm not opposed to it, actually, but I'm saying there's more than just this if we decide to make this action.
Well, I'll say this. You have a second public hearing, so you can have these discussions, and whoever wants to have them, I'm going to let them have them. But I do have a question for you. On the coming out of the waste fund, could all of it that Parks and Recs pays, could that come out of the waste management as well, or no?
No, sir. This, because waste management by its sheer nature, that is where all of our garbage gets dumped, you know, if you will. It
Okay.
is the
I
county
just had a
landfill,
simple
and this
question. I
is
didn't know if
local
it would-
garbage going to our local landfill.
Yeah,
That's fine.
And Mike, that is something the board has asked over the years. We want every penny that's possible to
Yeah.
come out of solid waste, but that we're, you know, we've been
No,
told
I'm
we're
with you
taking
now that I
everything
heard
from there.
that. That was my question. So, yeah, I was just hoping you'd give me a little bit of ray of light there, but it didn't work out. So,
I'll drop it. I
Okay.
understand there's not support, and I'll work with Charles, and maybe we can come up with a better game plan for going forward for next year, because you do great work. Again, this was not about you or your organization. We sincerely appreciate you keeping Pensacola beautiful. So,
okay, gang.
Thank you.
So, do we need to make a motion on the rest of community partners? Will someone make one?
Yes, yes. We have one, we had the one change, adopting that one change into it. I moved the slate of community partners.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board. Very healthy discussion. I'll go on and move to board action item continued 7-1, which I'll read what I have to read, and then we'll have a handful of speakers speak. The board adoption of the final millage resolution for fiscal year 25-26. I request that the board adopt the final millage resolution for fiscal year 25-26. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the final millage resolution presented in the agenda backup. Millage rates presented are countywide millage rate at 6.6165 mils, library MSTU at .3590 mils, sheriff's law enforcement MSTU at .6850 mils. We have 3 speakers. Lisa Rogers, you're up first. Mary, you're on deck.
Good evening, Commissioners. I won't be long. Can't talk hardly at all anymore. I'm just up here asking you to roll back the millage rate. I would like to see the Commissioners take a hard look at what our needs and our wants are and where our efficiencies can be done at and where we can cut the budget. We had lots and lots of folks come up here on the MSBU fire last time talking about how they're being hurt, and I'm looking at the piece of paper, and I don't know if I've read it right, but it shows that this is an 8.7% increase above what was done in 24-25. I don't know about you, but there's not very many people in this county that got an 8.7% increase, and I think the Social Security is going to be getting, 2.5, 2.7, and then Medicare is going to probably go up and take it. So I don't know where the fixed income individuals are going get the extra funds. So I just implore you to take a look at where you can cut or can ask the agencies within to be able to, where they can possibly cut on their budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Mary Konopka, you're up, and then Josh Roberson, are you in the audience? Okay, Josh, you're up after Mary. Oh, I see you. Okay, I thought I didn't. Yeah.
Well, my little ists, you have a job to do. We elected you to think about us, not just yourselves or not just a few people here and there. Your job is to do the best you can for the most people. And think about, when you come up with an idea, think about what's the primary consequence, what's the secondary consequence. Is there a tertiary consequence to this? Bad idea you had with a developer. Anyway, I like to remind you, and I'll show you, if you don't know anybody, I'm going to give you a perfect example of somebody you all know well. Sally Casey. She was a good wife. She didn't work. She took care of everything at home. Larry Downs bought her chickens to help her because she couldn't afford them. But that's a double-edged sword, because now Sally doesn't have a routine in the morning and she doesn't have a routine at night. These taxes are going to really hurt her. She's one of my best friends. You know, she didn't call me to tell me that Jesse had passed because she didn't want to upset me. Jesse and I were neighbors for a long time around Hogan's Pit, which surprises me that nobody knew that used to be a landfill, because he and I knew. He didn't want anybody to drive his tractor, but he let me. And he helped me dig sewage lines. He made my porch, my steps. And she didn't want to upset. She didn't want to upset me. And she has relatively nothing. And you know what would be great is if people whose median income is much higher than the Pensacola income would be great to anonymously go and pay her taxes.
Thank you, Mary. Josh Roberson, you're up next.
Hey, good evening. How is everyone?
Good morning.
So last time I came up with some emotion and some things going on, and there were some words I spoke to two, District 1 and District 4, and I went on and I apologized online, but I'd said it out loud here, so I do apologize. There were words I used as the Queen and the King, right? So you two are new on the board, and I'd apologize for that reference, okay? Say it out loud. I used that first 30 seconds for that. Second, I'll start off like everyone else. I'm retired. I live on a fixed income, raising the taxes. You want to take care of your constituents, and I hear you every time. District 3, Mr. May, you talk about losing houses, and you want to save the people's houses, and you want to save it from, the investor coming up here and getting it back on, getting the taxes waived. You have an opportunity right now to take a rollback rate and support county employees by the firefighters. You three right here, I watched your emotions when you voted the first time right off the bat. with the ad valorem taxes, and you were like, I saw the pain in your face. You could take the road back. Mr. Moreno, I will yield some of my time. Please read how much percentage we're over the rollback rate. You read it already. Can you just give that percentage again? You can't?
It's your
Okay,
time, Josh.
that's fine. I just asked. He already read it. He can't read it again? 4 point what percent? Take that off. Make it work within the budget. We have to make our budgets work. Financial analysts, financial specialists, can't you make it work? That's all we're asking. That's it. I give and give and give to the community. You do too. That's why you're here. That's why you fought so hard for this job. Show our constituents. You guys talk about your constituents here. Here's your constituents. You're us. Take the rollback rate, supplement the firefighters with our money. You guys are using our money to fund the 4 items you just passed through. TDC didn't pass the Jazz Fest. I'm not here to argue about that. Ashley, you did not vote for the Jazz Fest. You guys turned around and gave our money to the Jazz Fest. The TDC did not give their money, but you did. That's all. Take the rollback rate.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, board, that's all of our speakers for 7.1. I've read it. Is there a motion to move it forward?
Stand by, I got something to say about it.
Okay, Commissioner Stroberger, please.
So I've had discussions with Stefan and Wes yesterday in a car ride, and I wanted to, I don't know if anyone thought about these things, about the TIF rate. I don't know if that's even a discussion item anymore. I'd asked if we could cut the county budget by 2.5%. You're telling me that we already have?
Yes, sir, we did. We removed the 10.7 million.
And our budget has gone up, how much, $70 million this year? Is that right? Yeah, it's gone up $70 million. When I came back to Pensacola, you tell me if I'm wrong about this, in 2019-20, the county budget was $478 million. In 6 years, it's gone up $390 million. That sounds like a lot. So out where I live, you guys remember this, there was an MSBU that was imposed on my neighbors and me, and that's kind of what sparked my interest in running for office. We had people out there, widows, live on the water, bought properties, and I know one lady, she had to go back to work. She outlived 2 husbands. She had to go back to work to pay for her MSBU. And there were others like that too, that it was a strain. They're living on fixed incomes. Like I said, they're widows. And I understood that. I mean, I came here on a fixed income too. It wasn't going to hurt me like it was going to hurt them. But I wanted to help them. And I think that we should consider a partial rollback at the very least. We've already talked about putting this Gambia Children's Trust on the ballot next year and letting the voters decide whether they want to incur that $25 million cost. And I'd also proposed reducing our community partners by about 25%, except for the healthcare and defense. Apparently, that's not a big impact, but it's something. And we've heard a lot of people talk about the fire MSBU. I'm not giving that one away. We need that. We need that, and we've needed it for a long time. I know that it's, I can't believe we're talking about $101, that it's impacting everyone so much. We should have been applying this gradually, and we should be doing that, and we need to probably reattack this MSBU in every couple of years or 3 or 4 years or something like that, whatever it's going to take, to make sure that it's properly funded. It's not the fire MSBU, though. It's everything, right? It's FPL going up. It's our property taxes going up because our millage is the same, but our values are going up. Sounds like a great thing until you have to pay your taxes. The school board has got a tax. Escambia Children's Trust, they've decided not to do anything more than what they're doing. And then again, we got the fire MSBU. I think that the county can do more. $70 million more this year is, I mentioned it on the phone. It seems like we've always got another truck. We're always buying more stuff. And I think that we could probably extend the life of some of the things that we're using now. Households are all making sacrifices, and they're going to find a way to survive this. Some of them. Maybe they won't all survive. But I know at the county, we can help them by rolling back the millage, at least a partial rollback. Along with the ECT, I'm hopeful that that will be on the ballot next year. I'll make the motion in the spring, and voters will reclaim that money. I think the library MSTU, we talked about rolling that back. That's going to happen next year, too. We've got an agreement with the city, so we've got to work on that. I think there are a lot of things we can do to make it easier on our taxpayers, and I don't think we're doing enough. I ran for this office to reduce the burden on taxpayers. And I'm failing at it. I'm failing. So I'd like to succeed. That's all.
So, Mr.
All right, one at a time. Commissioner Berry had his line up first.
Steve, I'm sorry.
And then you're up, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, when you look at the $70 million increase, I mean, the majority of that is going to be the carry forward of balances that weren't spent during the year. It's not, I mean, that's, and, you know, we've had speakers that have mentioned, you know, a $300 million increase in the total budget over, you know, an 8-year, 9-year period. A large portion of our budget is balances now that didn't exist 8 or 10 years ago that do exist currently that continue carrying forward. I mean, out of the $70 million increase, the revenue increase is 15, 16 million. What's the, I mean, give or take? It's the minority. I know that. I mean, I don't know the exact percentage, Stefan.
Right, Commissioner, if I could add to that. So the local provider participant fund, which is, I call it our hospital MSBU process, the county is a pass-through for roughly $127.3 million. So that increase,
47 million.
correct. It's 47 million of the roughly 79 million between last year. That is the main increase in the budget. The general fund compared to last year is up about 4.8 million.
Right. So, and I mean, that's where our actual property tax revenues come from. So it's not, you know, it's said that, you know, numbers don't lie, but people do, and they can certainly be, and numbers can be misrepresented. Even if numbers are always, you know, scientifically true, they can certainly be misrepresented. So, you know, the budget increase might look like $70 or $80 million. That's not additional revenue that's coming to this board. When we start, you know, the departments start putting budgets together in March, and if we're going to deploy even a partial rollback rate, in my opinion, we need to have the administrator tell the budget, you know, tell the administrator so that he can, you know, push the message downhill that there's going to be a you know, even a partial rollback rate this coming year. So you're going to have reduced budgets. I mean, it's a 6-month process for our directors to implement. And I can be supportive of that next year, Steve. If you want to do a partial rollback rate. And I understand the passion when people come and speak to us. I hope they're at our other, you know, at our sister agencies with the same passion, where you actually do have a millage rate increase that's being adopted, not just an increase due to values being increased, but you have a millage rate increase being adopted. That's, I would see that as much more problematic than what we're doing, and and the fact that other things are happening. That's not. It is our concern, but it's not our responsibility. We don't have any authority over any of the other, any of the other agencies. And really, I feel like the authority that we have over our own agency needs to be deployed in a way that's more fair to the 1,800 employees that do directly work for the county. And if that, a portion of the budget reduction would probably be the elimination of positions. Okay. A portion of it may be the elimination of programs. Okay. But we need to give our people the opportunity to prioritize and say, okay, if you go into, I won't even name a department, but you go into Department A and you tell them you're going to, we're going to have a 15%, reduction in your operating budget this year. How are you going to handle that? They, in my opinion, they need time to work with these directors to be able to do that. And, I don't think the second budget hearing in September is the time to do it. If you want to, try to make a commitment that there's going to be, that you're going to support, and you feel like the majority of the board is going to support some rollback of millage next year, Commissioner Stroberg, I'm okay with that. But it takes, it does take time. It takes time to expect our employees to implement these changes that we can kind of say on a whim up here. So starting in just a few months, if that's the direction that the board wants to give, that we are going to be looking at a partial rollback rate to try to relieve some pressure, okay. But let's be more, I think we can be more diplomatic in the way that we deploy that to our, or it's 1,800 is probably not accurate. Maybe we have 2,000 employees now, but whatever the number is exactly, I think that we can be more diplomatic in our communication to them of that. And then I'm good with that. And then the other things that were mentioned, putting the children's trust on the ballot, I'm supportive of that. The library MSTU, I think we can now, it's very healthy. I think we can work without that. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do to alleviate things going forward.
All right, Commissioner May, and then Commissioner Stroberg, if you don't mind if I make a comment, and then I want to.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, you're up next.
Commissioner Stroberg, thank you for your leadership. And like Commissioner Berry, I could be supportive if you were to give a directive tonight to tell the administration that you want to see those 2% cuts of that $4.7 million overage. I could be very supportive of that. I have a lot of reservations with, what we've done in terms of increasing taxes, whether it's for fire or whether it's for whatever, because when people are living paycheck to paycheck, $100 matters. $200 a year matters. And so I think that you're on the right track. I do agree with Commissioner Berry that maybe, there's a directive that comes from you, from this conversation to say, let's look at it in 90 days, look at 120 days. We want the administration to start making cuts so we can be prepared, because what I don't support is just cutting the county. The tax dollars come in from all constitutionals across the board. And so it would be unfair to our directors, unfair to our staff to say tighten your belt, which I believe we have to in these days. I think the citizens expect for us to tighten our belt and to be more efficient and be and great stewards. I think we could lead that, in the next couple months, showing how we are cutting back and to hold all of the constitutionals as accountable as we are. But I do applaud you for what you're saying, because what you're saying is exactly right, is what I'm hearing from citizens. I hadn't heard, our first public hearing on the budget, I've been here with Commissioner Berry for almost 12 years, and that was the first public hearing that we probably spent 2.5 hours listening to the constituents, because many constituents are hurting. And not only just constituents who live below the poverty guidelines, but many investors and developers who are trying to put their properties back on the line and do development. Taxes and impact fees and all those things are certainly a great burden on them. until tonight when Stephen just said, of the $70 million, $47 million is unfunded mandates. I'm really afraid of what's going to happen with property taxes and the legislators. I'm really afraid of what's going to happen to CRAs in the next session, knowing that we're going into an election cycle. But I think leadership is exactly what you just said, that we figure out a way to cut this budget. So those are my thoughts, and I can be supportive of you, Commissioner Strohberger.
Commissioner Strohberger, if I can.
Well, I know it's a long process, but it's not a long process for those folks out there. They're going to have to make budget cuts themselves right away. And so I can't believe there's nothing we can do. They're just finding out that they're getting a tax increase, and we're just telling them over the course of a couple of meetings.
See, we have 4.7, and he said surplus. Could we direct the staff to cut that and it come back to us every 90 days? Start to reduce it so we can live with it and then cut the meal?
Can I show some data so we make decisions based on facts? Because I really think that, okay, three of us were at the FACT conference last week. I sit on the Finance, Tax, and Administration Board. Mike, can you put up slide 3? I'm going to go through some data here so we understand where we are versus just value and taxable value, so that we know we're in the lower third in millages in the state of Florida. First of all, everyone feels like they're overtaxed, but I also agree with Commissioner Strohberger. Mike, are you in the back? Who's in the thing? Okay.
It's up.
Yeah. Okay. So, team, I know this is small to read, but if you look at the mandates from the state, this board has no control over those mandates. We have to pay those no matter what. We have to pay those. Stefan, our ad valorem that we have control of, I think, is about $213 million. Is that correct?
Ad valorem for, I'm sorry, bear with me just a moment.
So ad valorem does not count LOST dollars, right?
Correct. This is the general fund. So ad valorem is around 217 million.
Okay, so it's a little off. Please, Mike, go to slide 5, because I think this is that slide. Okay, and then we'll push forward. So when you look at taxable values in the state, you got to look at what your just value is across the board and what your actual ratio is. And across the state, as you look at here, our taxable rate from 2020 to 2024 has went down about 7%. I'm going to push forward. Go to slide 16. We, in Escambia County, as you can see, if you were to look here, our just versus value tax is still on the negative side. You don't want to be there, right? You want to be above. If we were to roll it back, we'd be even in a worse situation. If you were to look at our counties close, just look at Walton. They're 10% below. You look at Santa Rosa, they're 4.82% below. You look at Okaloosa, they're 4.21% below. We're at a sweet spot right now, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do more. Please go to slide 17, because I think this is an important factor when you talk about predictability and non-predictability in taxes. If you look at Escambia County, who's paying property taxes, almost 68% of our citizens are non-homestead citizens. These are people that are paying taxes that have a second home. Think about that. The majority of our taxpayers in Escambia County are not homesteaded citizens. Think about that when you vote to get rid of property tax, because that is a big elephant. All right, push up to 69. Well, I think that's why we have to have this conversation with actual numbers. So if we could go to slide 69. And all this data, I challenge everyone here, for every single county in the state, Florida Association of Counties has put this out there. And it sounds good to get rid of property taxes. But do you know what some of the things are on the table? Well, it's a 4% when you buy your first house. I don't know how many people are going to support that. An increase in 2.5% on sales tax, impact fees that they're going to make us do. We don't know where we're going to land, but I will tell you from the recommendations from the people at the Florida Association of Counties, this is not getting rid of property taxes. If anyone in this room thinks you're getting rid of property tax, it's a transfer tax. and it'll hurt some of the poorest people worse. Sales taxes, people that have to pay more on their first home, all those things are going to hurt people more than what the people that are more predictable. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. But here's what I'd like to say. If you look, and I agree with Commissioner Stroberger, we got to look at how to make this more lean for the citizens of Escambia County. And I've been with both the county administrator and Stefan multiple times. Stefan will tell you I've went into his office multiple times. ECT, absolutely. They do some great things. I don't think it's a fair tax. I asked him to review what we call in the Navy the authorized mandating document, billets that basically are unfilled, to see how we can look at that at every director's level to save that money. We have a lot of billets in the county that we can't really get rid of. They're just hard to fill, like in public works and correctional officers. But that doesn't mean some of those billets shouldn't go off what I call your AMD. The life cycle. In the military, we used to have a life cycle, and this was one of the things that came up every single year. Well, if the microwave's 7 years, we got to get a new microwave. Well, if the microwave's still working, keep using the microwave, right? And it's the same thing with this. If we have vehicles that are still working, we don't need to get new vehicles. So I've challenged Wes on that. The MSTU on the library, I looked at that. The problem is, Allison, you tell me that we have an interlocal agreement with the city, so I don't want to get the county libraries to get less than the city libraries. So can you look at see if they'd be willing to negotiate that interlocal?
We can absolutely talk about their buy-in to the MSTU, yes.
But I want ours and the cities the same, not ours less.
Understood.
I'm not interested in that. And then TIFs, every 5% that we lower in the CRA TIF, it puts about, I'm just going to say 650,000. Is that fair, Stefan, back in the general fund? I hate doing that because that helps our poorest communities in Escambia County. But I'd be willing to negotiate a little bit, but not much on the TIF. And then community partners, I agree with Commissioner Stroberger. If we're all hurting, everyone's got to get a skin of flesh. It's not one size fits all. I would be willing to look at that and revise those as well. But the concern I have with the state legislature going into session in January, not knowing where we're going to land, for us to take a huge leap at this point would be all recommendations are no. I'm just telling you, all recommendations are no. Because we could be in a much worse situation come next March. And I think we really need to see what the state legislature is going to do. We could be in a really bad situation, and that's just my 2 cents. That's all I have. Commissioner Hoffberger, you have a comment?
I do, and I have a question. Commissioner Stroberger, were you recommending a 2.5% rollback?
No, not a 2.5% rollback, no.
Okay.
I think I'm recommending, my numbers are wrong because I thought we were at 824 million, and I was thinking about a 2% rollback at that point, so that we were talking about 13 instead of 26 million. That's what I was looking at. So I don't have a number.
What would get cut if we took 26 million? Stefan, you got to lay it on the table. Is it going to be county employee raises? Is it,
It's going to be employee pay raises, it's going to be programs, it's going to be what don't you want to do anymore? What services do you not want to provide anymore?
I agree with Commissioner Berry on this. We should have this conversation in the workshop, not now, because this is a big ask. Huh? I mean, Commissioner Stroberger, I totally understand what you're getting, and I know, but we have a little bit of time to see what the
I understand the fiscal reality, and Bubba Peters said that we're looking at maybe 0 to 2% next year. So a rollback is risky. It's risky, right? I understand that. But, man, it just sucks for some folks. It really just sucks. And we are giving ourselves a 3% raise.
So what's your ask?
Yeah, what's the ask? Cut the...
I can be supportive. I mean, I don't think you're going to get the rollback, but you could direct the 2% cut or whatever. I mean, what they're saying, it's really only a $4.7 million surplus. What do you recommend?
So,
You should recommend the Alvin Constitution?
I'm open to recommendations. We definitely should do that. That's a definite.
I want to support you, man.
But Commissioner Stroberger, do you need it today, or can we set the guidelines for the next fiscal cycle?
I think we need it, I think that maybe
do you
it'll
want
be
that to be the
easier
first
for...
cow in January?
Well, we have to approve
It's not
this
going to help
budget
some of
before
these folks that
October
have got to pay their taxes right now. That's my big concern. I have that damn MSBU is $101, and I've already told a few people I'll pay the damn thing for them. My wife's going to kill me if I keep paying everybody's MSBUs. I can't do that.
Well, so how do we know that the 101 is the actual number that we need for the MSBU? Why can't the MSBU be $75? I mean,
No.
you done?
It's
Well,
about
done. It's too late.
$101.
See, I mean, all you can do is make a...
That horse has
It's
left the
done.
barn. I mean,
I will say, it's pointless to have a budget meeting if we can't change anything. That's just crap.
It's
This is really a perfunctory, I mean, this is really a perfunctory meeting. I mean, the budget meetings were July.
Well, when I brought up giving more money to a nonprofit in July, you told me to wait and have that conversation at the budget hearing. So that happened too. Was your recommendation a 2.5%?
Yes.
I would like to second that. And just because I own a company, and when we are losing revenue, we can find 2.5% somewhere.
I mean, if we're going to
We have
cut
a
that, then we're
motion
going
and
to...
that's
I mean,
your
so
motion?
let's go back. I mean, listen,
I want on the table what we're going to cut, so it's not just, it sounds
not
good,
just
we're
the
cutting
county, let's cut every
2.5%.
constitutional, let's cut...
Let's
We don't
clarify.
know what we're
Do-
gonna
Can
cut
either
this
one of you explain what you mean by 2.5%?
We do,
Let's just be clear. What 2.5% are we talking about? 2.5% of the county budget, 2.5% of the general revenue, 2.5% of our millage rate? What are we cutting 2.5%?
Well, I want a partial millage rate rollback, but I still think we can find more fat to cut in our budget. I know we can find more.
And see, and that's where me and you hit, that I support you and would be very supportive of you saying and directing West to cut back and come in 6 months, and we can get a greater rollback millage rate in the beginning. But it's almost a game in a way that we're going to increase people's fire tax and then reduce the millage rate and think that it's all going to equate out. I think that you are right where you're going, and you guys are Republicans, conservatives, probably more than I. I agree with you. We need to figure out how we can cut something back. But I've been on this board where we've rolled back the millage rate. Once you roll back that millage rate, you can't go forward. I mean, we can always adjust our budget. As Commissioner Berry said, we can cut our budget anytime that we want. You could direct Stephen and Wes, say you want to see 2% reduction across expenditures and revenues, and figure out what programs you want to cut, and
I've
come back to
already
you.
done that. I got an email back. I got a lot of red in the email.
Well, you can direct them now with the support of your colleagues. I mean, were you saying they told you they wouldn't do it?
Oh, we got something back from Stefan. So.
Well, I mean, I can get it back. But, I mean, you can direct that, Steve. I mean, you have that ability, and I think that you have full support from your board to get that
I just
done.
don't want to rubber stamp this, because that's what I felt like I was doing all along, is just rubber stamping the budget without really and it's taken me this long to get my arms around it, to kind of understand it. It's complicated. It's a complicated budget. And I know it's a lot of work. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the work.
And Steve, I agree with you, but Steve, here's problematic what we find ourselves in, that we have to be stewards. I agree with you. I mean, listen, I didn't even bring the fire tax. I mean, I'm supportive of our colleagues, so that was important to many of you that's on this board, because quite frankly, I probably would not have landed there. But cutting the millage rate, I agree with you. We need to give the taxpayers some type of relief. But the problem is, we can direct and have it cut now, see what happens in the legislature in February and March, to see exactly what the delegation says.
I'd rather lead on that, because those guys are, I don't know what kind of shenanigans.
You don't know what they're
planning
going to
over there.
But if they cut
You
property,
may not have a
but if you
chance
roll
to
back,
lead.
hold
You
on,
may be on
Mike,
the
let me
far out.
respond. Mike, let me respond, please. If you roll back this millage rate, and I would say this to the both of you, you roll back the millage rate, and then they cut property taxes, and then we still have unfunded mandates, and then what you're really going to do is hurt poor people, because sales tax is not going to go up 2 cents, it's going to go up 7 cents, and we're going to be a California and a New York, somewhere like that. So, I mean, I think that you have full support to say to the administrator, cut it. Come back in 90 days and tell me your cuts. Come back, in March and tell me what your other cuts for. And then we're going right back in the budget cycle in March. When you're going into the legislature, we will have known what the legislators are going to do. And that's what I would hope that you do. But, I believe in where you're going. I mean, I want to help you, but I'm trying to find the compromise that makes sense.
Commissioner, I agree with that. I would just say this. If you say cut 2.5%, that's like throwing a grenade out. You got to say where you're going to cut. And so is it going to be the staff increase? Is it going to be out of the TIF? Is it gonna, I don't know either. I don't know what that means. I mean, we got to
I
define what
think
that
it's got to
means.
come from all of those. It's got to come from the TIF. The TIF's not going to, what is it, like 650,000?
That's only if you
It's not a
change it
whole
from
lot.
70/30, but I'm just saying,
Yeah. If it was at 70, right?
there's a lot of different options here. I mean,
Yeah, but Steve, I think what Mike is saying, and I agree. Listen, I've said since I've been on this board, and Commissioner Barry will vouch, I've always said that we have to tighten our belt. But, okay, we're going to cut employee salaries, or are we going to put the people that make over $100,000 and cut them 3% and cut the people that make $15 3%? Or, I mean, who are we
I
going to
need
cut?
to know what that would amount to.
Yeah,
I need to
I'm
know
not
what
going
that
to
is.
support cutting somebody that makes less than $25,000, less than $30,000. I'm not going to cut them the same amount that I'm going to cut somebody that makes $100,000, you know?
So Commissioner, 40% of the total county budget is the general fund. 60% is all the other funds of the county. All the other funds can only be spent on very particular things. Those are considered special revenue funds, enterprise funds, restricted funds. Legally, they have specific uses for those dollars. So if you tell or direct staff to cut those budgets, those dollars can still only be spent on the things that they are appropriated for currently. So it would just simply be, we do that cut. But then those dollars are still there, and to Commissioner Barry's point, they roll forward, and they still have to be spent on exactly the legally allowable use of those funds. So if you're going to do a cut that is meaningful in any way, it could only be in the general fund.
so we're close to the sweet spot. We would be in the negative spot. And that's what I was trying to share with what came out of the fact.
And I get that too, but that's also saying, suck it up. That's what you're telling everybody else. Our millage rate is low, suck it up.
I
And
didn't say
don't
that.
think
I
that's
gave
good
6
enough.
options.
No, I know you're not saying that, but that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. It's really low now, and I get it, but we're a poor county. We are a poor county. And there are more poor people here that are going to be hurt by this than some of those other counties. I talked to folks at Fact 2, and they're all planning a lot of them, I don't know how many. I know Okaloosa is, partial rollback. I don't know why we can't do the same thing.
Steve, and so, as, you know, Madam Counsel and my colleague to my right has said, you know, obviously we've passed the MSBU, the fire tax. So let me just, someone house who floods, we probably spent more LOSC dollars and money on people whose houses has flooded. I mean, we probably have more people who are displaced from flooding than we do fire. So I think that, you know, you almost have to do a desk audit of the critical needs. And I think one thing that we miss, you know, and we've not had this in a committee of the whole, what's our long-term strategic plan for this county? And I agree with you that it has to reduce the tax burden. But we got to look at revenue versus resources and how do we fulfill those needs and what's critical. I mean, you know, I can just tell you right now, in many of my districts, you know, people are still flooding. I mean, people still don't have sewer to septic. I mean, although, you know, fire is important, we probably don't have as many fires in our neighborhood as we do have flooding. So, I mean, there are still some real critical needs. I agree with you. We got to tighten the belt. I think you are in a position of leadership to work with the administration to say cut it. And if not, you know, you're going to be there in March to be
It
able to
doesn't
do it.
sound like it makes a difference if we cut anything. But $390 million over the last 6 years, you think we'd solved a lot of stuff, you know, but we're still flooding. We still got roads that are crumbling. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think that we need to, we're not spending our money the right way, and we're not actually spending it on the right things either. So we gotta, I think there's a lot of soul searching we need to do about this. And like households are doing, they're balancing their budgets. I think that we can do a better job of balancing ours and make the cuts that we need to, just like Ashley's going to have to do in her business if there's a downturn in her business or anybody else's business.
So you guys made a motion in a second. Where are we?
Commissioner Berger, I want to be supportive. I would hope that you would maybe amend it to ask staff and the administrator to make those cuts, to come back and make some cuts and come back with you with something that allows for us to really give a real significant rollback rate to the citizens. with the uncertainties. And, you know, that's my only concern on rolling back the millage. I agree with you with cutting. I mean, let's figure out what to cut and how to cut it. I mean, cut something. And
Well, you made
got
a
my full
motion,
support.
and there's a second. I'll force the vote. I need clarity on what 2.5% is.
Yeah, Commissioners, I just need to gently remind you, the item that you need to vote on is the final millage rate. That is what the item is. You're going to have to be crystal clear about what you are doing, because this has huge ramifications. So 2.5% of what? I mean, the question is, are you adopting or not adopting the final millage rate that's here under 7.1? That is the item. I'm not sure what the 2.5% of what is what the.
Well, I don't know that either. That's why we're having
So
the
we need,
discussion.
I'm trying to nudge you back to adopting the final millage rate. It is the whole purpose, really, of this hearing
All right.
tonight.
Stefan, well, so the 6.6165 is, give or take, is it about $5,400 per 10,000th of a mil? Is that, do we know?
Say that again, please.
$5,400 per 10,000th of a mil, is that right? Or how do you have the revenue broken down over there when you just back of napkin number? Per 100th of a mil, per 1,000th of a mil?
Basically, it's $6 per thousand, 6.61, $6 and, you know, per $1,000 of value for a
I'm not
piece of
looking at
property.
value, I'm taking the millage versus our revenue. Because I'm presuming what Commissioner Starberger would like to do is something that reduces revenue, which would be a cut in, which would be trimming some mills off the mill rate, and that's what I'm getting at. And I back of the napkin that per 10,000th of a mill would be about $5,400 of revenue. So that's what I was going to say is if we did trim just a little bit off of the mills to, I mean, it's not
Like
the whole rollback.
6.5, what do you think, Commissioner Berry?
No, I was like.
I'm just asking.
6.6 or 6.6.
Okay, yeah,
So,
I get it. I'd do
I mean,
something really small.
something-
That would probably affect it, yeah.
I mean, we can absorb that. It's you know. And that's what I was trying to kind of get at, so.
But Commissioner Strawberry, what Commissioner Berry had made a great compromise to you, you could still direct the next administration to make cuts, and then you still roll back the millage rate of what you were trying to accomplish.
So if we went to if we were 6.6 flat, would that be about $1 million reduction? Give or take.
That's a good wiggle room to see what the legislature does. I think that's, and then we come back.
And again, we still are in an environment where ECUA has raised rates, raised the rate part. The school board has raised the rate part, not just the value part,
I know,
the rate part.
I get it.
But I mean, you've indicated an appetite to support this as well, so I'm trying to
No, I get it. It's
find
gonna
something
hurt.
that we can all live with.
Steve,
It's less than that. It's only about $500,000, isn't it?
But it's.
So, correct, it's about $546,000.
If we went 6 flat, I mean, 6.
Yeah, it's only about $500,000.
6 flat.
From 6.6165 to 6.6 is $546,000.
Steve, that's about the lowest I would go to roll back is where Commissioner Berry is, for the simple reason, you know, I'm not comfortable with rolling back anything with the uncertainties at the legislature. But I'm very supportive of saying we got to tighten our belt and look at our administration. But if that's where Commissioner Berry and you can meet and we can go, I can be supportive of that. Let me say this, because here's the reality of it. We can get beat up every week, but the school board has tremendously raised their millage rate, and ECUA continues to raise their rates. The utilities continue to raise their rates. And I mean, the cost of doing business is just the cost of doing business. I mean, and so I'm certainly want to give relief. But I'm not going to tax somebody on a fire tax and then come back and say I'm going to reduce their millage rate. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And Stephan, I apologize. I wasn't pulling out the carry forward balance. I was leaving the balance in there when my back of the napkin number.
But Commissioner Berry, if I can make a comment.
Yeah.
I actually think what you said is very fair, because it's a minimal rollback, and then we can come back and give the staff direction for March And Commissioner Stroberger, I really think after being at FACT last week, we really need to see what the state legislature is going to do. I can't express that enough. We could literally be in a pickle come April if we got too crazy here. And everyone's saying that. It's just not Commissioner Kohler. It's every single county in the state. So I'm willing to go with what he suggested.
Yeah, and I'm willing to go with Steve. I mean, Commissioner Stroberg and Commissioner Berry, I'll support that. In an ideal world, Mike, I'm with you. I don't really want, because here's what's going to happen. You roll it back, and we got more homelessness. We got more people hungry. We got more people paying rent. HUD is being reduced by $90 million. SHIP funding may be drying up. We still are going to have the burden of taking care of the less fortunate, the poor, the homeless, and all those things that we can only take care out of a general fund. So I can go with the 6.6 and say cut, fat, tell West to do that, but to say to go way down, not knowing what the legislature is going to do, that's not the appetite I got, Steve.
5.9 would be about $1 million.
5.9 would be a lot more than $1 million cut.
I'm sorry, I mean 6.59 is what I meant.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, 6.6, and you know, we have not been in an environment in a number of years where.
Well, I got it. Before we go there, these guys had a motion and a second. I need someone to retract that before I go to your amendment.
I did have a motion, and I need somebody to do my math, and Stefan, you're the really good one at that. So where I got the 2.5% from, if we flip back to the front page and something Josh brought up, the fiscal year 2025-2026 is 4.83% above the rollback rate. So if we, instead of going 4.83%, if we only did 2.5% above the rollback rate, what would that equal?
Several million.
So, actually, may I ask a question when you're saying that, rollback? So when you want to do this rollback, is this going to apply to all the constitutionals? So everybody's going to have to reduce their budgets and go back? I mean,
No.
It won't.
No, their budgets are set. We eat this.
We eat this. We'd have to wait till next year for the Constitution.
So that's unfair. I mean,
So the constitutionals being the
clerk, the
the
sheriff.
clerk, the
We have
sheriff,
an interlocal
the
with
tax
the sheriff.
appraiser, the tax collector, the property appraiser. I mean, you mean to tell me that we're just going to put it all on the backs of us? If we can't spread it across, I mean, I'm completely out, Commissioner, if we can't spread it across the board.
No, I think we need to let Stefan put the word out to all the constitutionals they have to cut back next year.
gotta
That
get
would be
the-
so unfair. I mean.
Yeah, we're asking all
I
of our
want to know
people.
what this number equals, because a constituent brought it up, and I think we deserve to at least explore it, if Stefan can.
Going to 5.9, Commissioner Stroberger, is about 23 million.
Is that how much?
23 million.
I meant to, I misspoke. I meant to say 6.59.
Well,
See why he's figuring it, but do you agree that we should cut it across all constitutional then?
Yeah, I do.
Well, we can't.
you can't do that.
Well, all we do is direct the staff to cut, and then we come back, and then we do it in March. I mean,
And that's why I said we pass what we have and then we put the word out that there's going to be changes next year. I mean, that's.
I think you'd be making a good faith effort cutting down to
I'd like to get out of here
6.6.
but I'd like to get out of here this evening. So if it's 6.6 if that's what gets us out of here.
They got to roll back their 2.5. That's where, we got a motion and a second. I'm waiting to see where we
I don't
land.
think there's support for 2.5. I mean, Commissioner Stroberg, you know I support you. I support it being cut across all the constitutional. Until we can do that, it's going to be hard for me to vote for any millage rollback. I mean, because I can't say lay off our custodial staff or lay off our support staff, lay off building inspectors. I mean, what happened? We got a jail that we're spending $300 million. Hey, Tim, lay off an inspector, well, we can't do good inspections. How do I do that? And then I don't say anything to the other constitutionals. I mean, I just don't know how that exists, you know?
All right, we got two questions, Commissioner Stroberger's and then Commissioner Hofberger's. And then at that point, I need you to decide if we want to vote on your 2.5% with clarity.
So Commissioner Stroberger, so at the 6.59, that would be about 877,000. And for Commissioner Hofberger, that's a little more complicated. I've actually got to play with a Department of Revenue spreadsheet to try to get that to work. It's not super easy to do that.
Okay, then I will retract that motion based on the information that you gave, because I do agree we need to make an educated decision. And the 6.59 is a reduction of some sort, and I think that our first meeting in January will be, how are we going to make these reductions across the board in our CAL?
So
If that makes you comfortable.
you didn't make the
Commissioner Strober.
motion, he did, so he has
Oh,
to
did you? I
retract.
thought I made it. I'm sorry. I'm very supportive,
So I'm just
apparently.
trying-
I'm so sorry. I thought I made that.
You seconded it,
Okay.
but Commissioner Stroberger, do you want to retract your motion and can we have maybe a different motion or?
But, Mr. Chairman, I mean, Commissioner Stroberg could do whatever he wants to do with the motion, but we could make this motion on the millage rate, and then we could come back and make any directive that you want to do.
But that's not what's on the
I mean, so like
table.
Steve said,
He's
we'll be
gotta
here all night,
retract
keep
his
going through
motion.
this.
I will retract my motion, and I'll make a new motion to roll back the millage rate to 6.59.
If you're going to make it where you lay out the countywide, make the amendment. to
All
county-
of them?
All three of
Okay.
them, if you're going to
Steve,
make it.
I mean, Steve, can you
Here.
go with the 6.6 that Commissioner Berry recommended? Because I'd like to support it. Commissioner Stroberg, before you make the motion, I mean, would you consider what Commissioner Berry said before you make it? Because I would like for us to, have a consensus vote, but, I mean, if that's not the vote, that's fine. I mean, I'll be very
So the
supportive.
library, MSTU, and the sheriff.
And, I mean, but
You
just-
got to read the millages for each one.
All right.
Commissioners, if I could, please. So I would like some additional direction, please.
So are we freezing raises or something? What are we doing?
I don't know where it's going to
I
come
mean,
from.
because, I mean, what are you going to, are you going to?
So that is the question. I have to have some direction. If you're going to reduce something, then I need you to tell me what we're going to take out.
I mean, because you're going to have to freeze raises, and then, Steve doesn't want to be here all night, but we're going to be here all night when we're going to freeze the raises for people that's making $12, $13, $14 an hour. We're not going, and we're going to give people that make six figures.
if we-
What does a
if we went-
1% in the raise
If we went to
represent?
6.61, we could just reduce the amount that's being dedicated to reserves with no other impact. If we went to 6.61, because we could absorb that so easily, we could just reduce the amount that's allocated for reserves. It wouldn't have any other impact. And that's okay.
And Steve, I think that you're fair, but I mean, we just raised the fire taxes. We're not paying our firemen properly, but some people can't find CDL drivers. I mean, some people can't find people to clean the building. And so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, we're going to cut personnel, and those at the lowest level are going to the people that are going to be impacted the most. I mean, if there's something where you can take it out of reserves, that's fine. Or if we're going to look at raises for people who make a lot more money.
What I was saying is, if we went to 6 points, if we just went to 6.6 flat, then all we would be impacting is the allocation to reserves. It wouldn't be impacting anything else. The rest of the budget would stay the same.
All right.
Yeah.
Commissioner Stroberger, just in the interest of time, retract his original motion.
I'll make a
Anyone
motion.
can make a motion now.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. Make a motion to adopt the final millage resolution that are indicated countywide millage rate of 6.6 mills, 6.60 mills, library MSTU 0.359 mills, sheriff's law enforcement MSTU 0.685 mills, with direction to the staff that the reduction of revenue be a reduction in the allocated reserves for the year.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
Point of clarification, Commissioner Berry, so you did say 6.6 or 6.61? 6.6?
000.
6.67.
Well, actually, I would like to follow up with Commissioner Stroberger, what he said. I still think there's a lot of opportunity come next year that we could look at. We've already thrown out ECT, we've thrown out cycle, we have the attorney looking at the library tax. I don't think we're not listening to the people. And so you can see how hard this is and what we're having to do. We are listening to you. We're trying to manage the county interest with all the things that you want, but this is not easy. It's not easy. So I just want, I think when we come back maybe later this fall or early in January, we should have a CAL before to talk about this.
But I mean, it's a budget, and Commissioner Stroberger wants to, because we're in a public meeting where he's not one-on-one, when he said he didn't get back what he wanted from Stephen, or, he's tried to get reductions. I mean, this is the time to say it and get support of what you expect in terms of reductions. And I could be supportive of you, man.
Mr. Chairman, do we
I
have more
think
speakers?
I need to talk more with Steph.
We have speakers on the next one.
Oh, okay. Do we have a speaker on
Yeah.
item 2?
No, actually, let me read that, and then we can move on. So are we good on that, folks? Okay. So let's move to 7.2, Board Action of Supplemental Budget Amendment Resolution, that the board adopt the resolution approving supplemental budget amendment. I was told I had to read this. Amend the fiscal year 25-26 tentative budget in the increased amount of $41,041,563. That would mean general fund, and these numbers, the general fund will change, Stefan, right, of what we just decided, so I don't know what the actual number will be on that, so general fund TBD, M&A state funds, 13,254, local provider participant funds, 47,027,311, tourist promotion funds, $3,040,921, library fund, $97,164, misdemeanor probation fund, $25,948, opioid abatement fund, $22,335, fire protection fund, $2,032,532, Community Redevelopment Fund, $116,511. Building Inspection Fund, $39,873. Internal Service Fund, $435,397. Do you know what the general fund should be, Stefan? I probably have to announce that. It's going to be 8 million something.
I don't know.
So the budget adjustment that is in front of you,
Yep.
I think you're safe to read that.
That number?
That is the budget
Okay,
adjustment.
so the general fund that I have in front of me is $8,809,683, folks.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion, a second, please vote. Okay, motion passes 5-0. We're at 7.3. This is for the final budget resolution for 2025-2026. No, not on this one. So the final, the final 868,000 is not the correct number, right?
The final budget will be different. I am working on that right now.
Okay, I need a minute so I can announce the final number. I was told I have to read that numbers. You don't?
I mean, I don't think we have to have the exact numbers.
don't?
We could have made a plethora of changes that couldn't be calculated on the fly.
All right, I
so
was
don't
told
think-
by him, but if you're saying else and we don't, we'll push on.
We-
I'm only doing what I was told.
The number in the resolution will be adjusted accordingly.
Okay, that's fine.
according
We'll
to
move
your
forward with that.
Previous vote.
So the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the final budget resolution, which was initially $868,481,713. It'll be amended by fiscal department for 25-26. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we're now at three different things. Mary, you're up. This is on the Myrtle Grove redevelopment plan. You're our first speaker on number 4. Would you like to come up and speak?
How many?
We only have 2 more.
Who made that plan?
The Myrtle Grove CRA?
Who physically went out and counted all these dilapidated?
Max
Place-
Rogers. Max Rogers did, and Neighborhood Services.
Okay. And does FDOT know about these 2 state roads that go through that area? I mean, is it just like a wish that, oh, FDOT, we're going to have to get with them, and, you know, they're going to have to help us do that?
Mary, this is a CRA. The FDOT road's a totally different subject.
I saw FDOT mentioned in there.
It's just a redevelopment plan.
It's a redevelopment plan for a community that's 10,000 below the median income in Escambia County. I think it's a really good thing, but, you know, I don't know where you land on it.
I was just curious. I read the agenda online. It doesn't even look like the agenda that was at the counter when I came in, and a lot of us were confused about
It has
that.
nothing to do with FDOT, Mary.
We've had 2 public hearings over at Myrtle Grove at Wesco. And Max put, there's a whole, on our website, there's a whole PowerPoint on it if you go to My Escambia.
I was just worried about, you know, it's hard to get FDOT to respond. I mean, like with Sorrento Road, you know, and how many years is it going to be? So I was just curious
Yeah, this has nothing to do with
Okay.
FDOT, so, okay.
That's cool.
So, Board, I have no speakers for
So moved,
502,
Mr. Chairman.
503. Can we move them all at one time?
Can we?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion for
I second the
502?
502.
My motion stands.
Okay, and you're the second? Okay,
Yeah.
please vote. 502 passes unanimously. 503?
I'll move 503, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Berry, please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
I'll move.
6?
I'll move 6 too.
Okay, motion.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion second, please vote. Number 6 passes. We are now, I think, actually, team, I think we can go through, do I have any other speakers? Okay, I don't have any other speakers on the other items, so we can move through.
Move the balance.
Okay?
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 5-0. All right, I just have one thing. I know we're meeting next week. Commissioner May, as we get ready to adjourn, do you have a Cal item on, that you're?
You know, I would like to put on the account, if you would have a report, Stefan, for economic development and job growth.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
Florida
fine.
West
Is that good? Stefan, can you help us with that for October?
If we could have Florida West predict, job growth and economic development for the committee of the whole.
I apologize. I'm still trying to get our budget and
Wes,
millage
you're here?
resolutions
Wes, could you do
completed.
it? For the next Cal, can we do economic development and job growth, Florida West to present?
Okay, good. All right, team, good meeting. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Got a little, I thought that went. Get back in the fight.